welcome to episode 4 of The David Nassau Show. I am The David Nassau, and today we have one of my best friends from volleyball growing up in South Florida, Andrew Van Sweden. And Drew is an aerospace engineer at Boeing who graduated with his BS in mechanical engineering from FAU and a Master of Science in Aerospace Engineering from Georgia Tech. In August of 2019, he graduated and moved to California as he transitioned from a broke college student to a full-time employee. After beginning as employee, Drew needed to learn how to budget differently, invest towards retirement, and set financial goals. And over the past year and a half, he's carefully navigated a balance between responsible long-term investing, maintaining a frugal lifestyle, and reckless financial behavior. Along the way, he has experimented with many different investment strategies, tools, resources, and platforms. And with just over 1 year of experience, Drew is now a self proclaimed financial expert, even though he changes his entire financial philosophy roughly every few months and rarely follows his own advice. So, without any further ado, Andrew, it's a pleasure to have you on, Drew. I'm super excited to talk with you. As really, I think you're the first person, or you are probably the one person who's been on the show now that I've known the longest, is how I meant to say that. And we connected through playing some volleyball and club volleyball in South Florida. But again, I'm super excited. How about you tell us a little bit more about yourself with your wonderfully written bio? Let's hear it from your own words and hear
Yeah,
more from you. What
absolutely.
makes Drew Drew?
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk to you. Whenever I heard you were doing the show, I thought it was super cool. So, um, I love the idea. And yeah, so basically, I graduated, as mentioned in the bio, I graduated a little over a year and a half ago, and basically got into the world of investing from just about zero experience in it. And I wanted to learn from doing. I had a lot of good mentors and good advice along the way, so I was lucky in that area. But I think the best way for me to learn and me to figure out about investing is from doing it myself. So over the past year or so, especially with the pandemic, which I think a lot of people have done, I've been playing with my finances and trying to figure out what works best for me. And yeah, uh, you're one of my oldest friends as well, so I'm just excited to talk to you in
Awesome.
general. So thanks.
Love it, man.
Thanks for
Yeah,
having me.
of course. Again honored that you wanted to be on, and glad that you're here. And yeah, thanks. And of course, during the pandemic, I think a lot of us can relate. That's obviously when I really started going heads down into understanding what I've been doing financially. But also that's when the show really started. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely something cool that had come from the pandemic as well. But yeah, like tell us a little bit more about like your history growing up and your first thoughts around money as well. So like tell us your story in that kind of context.
Yeah, of course. So I was very lucky. I had a supportive family that took care of my needs. It was never a big issue as far as surviving day to day, that I always felt comfortable, super lucky to have, and realize a lot of people don't get that benefit. uh, but at the same time, I wasn't throwing money at, like my parents didn't want me to just pay. I don't know, didn't want to pay for everything I wanted to do. Like, so, as far as doing my own thing, working, I needed to work to gain some, autonomy and stuff like that, which I I appreciate that accountability as well. Looking back on it, maybe it would have been nice to have them buy me a Ferrari when I was 16, but I'm definitely glad they didn't. And I would not advise parents to do that. So in that sense, I was very lucky and grew up in a little bit of having that sort of privilege there. But I also went through school, went through undergrad, saved money there by commuting to Florida Atlantic, staying at home. Was able to have that not be a big cost. And then for grad school, I was able to work towards getting that paid for through a research assistantship. So overall, I was able to get through college without too much burden, not really much debt at all. I took out a small loan for my parents actually. So and
Pretty
then
good terms, I assume.
yeah, great terms.
Yeah.
But yeah, was able to get through that um, without the debt issue, and then also had to work and be extremely frugal in that time. So I think as far as growing up, I didn't have much much money in general, but I did have like the safety factor that if anything were to go wrong, my parents would like have my back and be able to support me through anything. So that's kind of where I grew up, I guess, financially.
Yeah, and so like on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you definitely had like the definite like shelter and food basis. Like, all right, I'm
Exactly,
pretty good
exactly.
with
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah.
it's great spot. So like, what was your first job, right, in South Florida? Was that something that
First
memorable?
job. So my first job would probably be mowing my lawn
Nice.
when I was like 10 or so. But maybe 13. I might be a little young.
Yeah, yeah.
But first job, I worked with my dad doing electrical contracting. So he would go to houses, wire them, and I would basically go there, pull wire for him, dig ditches and stuff like that. And
Uh,
that would get me a little bit of my spending money throughout like maybe late middle school, early high school time frame. And then I did a lot of odd and ends jobs when I started college. So as soon as I started college, I coached volleyball for I think 2 or 3 seasons, high school volleyball, and then I also set up events for beach volleyball as
yeah.
well. So on the weekends I would do that, and then during the weekdays I would coach and then do school.
And I mean, when you're saying, I just was had to setting the stage for everybody watching, like volleyball, coaching volleyball, and like doing your volleyball level, like, dude, you're one of like the best volleyball like people who I remember just being like, damn, that guy is good. And like when you're coaching, I think you guys won states as well, didn't you?
Yeah, we did win states. So um, in
Casually.
2018, I coached and we went undefeated and won states. I was assistant coach for the record. I was assistant coach, and we had an amazing team and great coaches. There were like 6 coaches. I was just like a small tiny piece. 100% they would have won states if I wasn't coaching. So
Nah, nah, I would.
100%.
You're better than
I
that, man. You're good. They needed you,
I
man. That's
I,
the.
I appreciate that. Um, but this was a very solid team, and I think I I think I enjoyed just being a part of it, and then being having that experience with them. Winning
Did
states was pretty cool. I couldn't do it as a player, so I had to come back as a coach.
you guys were good as a player too? Do you think that they were better than our club team? Do you think
The
they?
high school team better than our club team.
Yeah,
Um, our 16s club team.
the one that won like East Coast.
That's tough because club
It's a
is a
different
different
caliber,
different
but states
animal.
is also states.
States is states. I think they were probably better than
Really, it's a
our
big
club
statement.
team.
It's
But
a
we
big
were
statement.
we were a 16s team at the time too. So
Yeah.
they were one of the best high school teams I've seen. So
Wow.
it was
Nice.
pretty cool.
And then you come out to California and everybody's just like, ridiculous and
Oh yeah.
just super good here.
Oh my gosh. I
Yeah.
played a tournament yesterday, not
Yeah.
to get into
Yeah.
volleyball,
Yeah.
but I played a tournament yesterday and I played with a 15-year-old kid and he was 6'4". He plays for like Balboa Bay or something like
Yeah,
that.
had
Six
to.
four, nasty. He crushes the balls. He passes perfectly, and I was like, okay, this guy's like a college player when I was playing with him, and it was incredible.
He's like, I'm 15. I just got my braces out last week, and I get my car in about a year from now. And
Yeah,
oh
yeah,
wow, yeah. I mean, again, when I was just playing just random, was like in a park 2 days ago. It was like in grass. It wasn't even like beach. It was just like people just set up a net and a ball and lines. And I wasn't bad. I was pretty bad compared to these guys, but it was just they were just average, and like none of us had played in a year plus, and I was just like, you guys are still this good, and you guys haven't touched a ball in so long, and I'm just like
yeah,
mind blown, you know.
yeah,
And but anyway, yeah. So um, I love how people like you and a lot of our club team made work out of, and some people are in our club team still work in volleyball. It's actually pretty
yeah.
special to see, and I'm glad that they're still doing it because it's just like, keeping the dream alive.
Oh, for
I,
sure.
I know it was never my long term thing, but it was definitely something that was, such a strong passion for a long
Yeah.
time. And obviously there was talking about money, like there was tournaments and that club team was not cheap, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
those
Th-
things.
that was that was expensive. That was the other thing that my parents like. I was lucky to have them support me with club throughout high school, which was I it was a great experience. So much fun being able to do stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, completely agree. And just the experiences were amazing. Loved
Oh
that.
yeah.
And so yeah, and as we continue, so you then went to school. What was the motivation to go into like aerospace and go into like tell us your journey into, you know, work and career stuff in college and then master's stuff.
Yeah, so I started out college. I think I had the opportunity to play some maybe lower level college volleyball, like, and get a little bit of help from that. There's not a lot of scholarships for guys in volleyball, but
Hmm.
I was playing around with that when I was in like later high school, junior, senior year. But I think I was a little worried about college and not being able to focus because I know a lot of people that have to dedicate a ton of time uh, towards volleyball and sports in general if they're starting out college. So I chose just to go to FAU, the cheap, easy place to go, save money, stay at home. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do as far as career wise. I knew I was good at math. So if you're good at math, you go into engineering, I guess. Uh, and a few of my siblings have gone into engineering as well. So I had that mentorship there. And they all went into ocean engineering, and I went into mechanical engineering for my undergrad.
Hmm.
And I think I chose mechanical engineering because I knew I wanted to do engineering and I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do. So it seemed like mechanical engineering was fairly broad, and then I could go from there to whatever discipline I wanted, which is what I ended up doing. I finished my mechanical engineering, and then I got some internships and got into Georgia Tech for aerospace, and that was a pretty solid opportunity for me. So I took that and continued that path
Yeah,
or
wow. And
trajectory.
so and when you did that, you mentioned at the beginning that you definitely took out some you did like some work study or you did some yeah, what
Yeah,
was that process like in school? Because obviously master's degrees are very difficult to pay for. They're super expensive, you know.
yeah. So if you get a graduate research assistantship, which is what I applied for, so I reached out to the professors directly to get into grad school, which is kind of what I would suggest doing if you're looking to go into grad school full time at least and not have to pay a whole lot of money. So I reached out to a whole bunch of professors at Georgia Tech and a few other places and was able to get into um, the Aerospace Systems Design Lab at Georgia Tech.
Cool.
And that basically, the way it works out is they pay the tuition for college, and then they give you like a base salary for living expenses, which is, I don't know, it's like right above the poverty line, I think. But
Yeah.
you're getting school paid for, and you're getting a little bit of money for monthly expenses. So I was able to live very frugally and basically come out about even on that time, which was pretty useful,
Yeah.
pretty nice, pretty lucky to be able to get that. And I think, yeah, I did that. So that's 20 hours. It's supposed to be 20 hours of work on research and 20 hours about on classes, about half and half, which is way more than that in
Yeah.
reality.
Got it.
And I went through that as quickly as possible. I got through it in 4 semesters, which was terrible for my mental health. But
How long does it
I
usually take?
um usually takes I think it usually takes around a year and a half, 2 years. So it was on the shorter end.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in my lab. Typically in my lab, it was taking 4 years, and then often, or four, not 4 years, 4 semesters, and then they would, a lot of times they would take an internship over the summer, so 5 or so. But I also started in the summer and ended in the summer, so they were shorter semesters overall.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And those, yeah. Was it difficult to find internships and any paid ones as well?
Yeah, so I started out, I started out interning at FAU back then. So I think sophomore year, yeah, sophomore year, I started doing research at on site at FAU during school, and that paid a little bit. I think that was like $12 an hour or something like that. But it was like 15 hours, paid some living expenses, got me some engineering experience, which is valuable for the next internship. So it was difficult, but if you sought it out, you could find some stuff. Um, and the earlier you start, the better for sure with that type of stuff in engineering, because everybody's looking for 5 years of experience right after you come out of college.
This random job recs, like, yeah, like entry level job that requires like you living longer than the actual experience required. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I completely understood. You mentioned that you obviously were living a somewhat frugal life as well during, university especially,
Yeah.
and master stuff. Do you remember anything that was might be a little bit more unique and different than what you might read on the internet about how do people live frugally? Was there anything like that was kind of fun or quirky that you realize you did looking back?
Yeah, I definitely never ate out if
Hmm.
I could avoid it at all. And I think that's where a lot of spending goes. And right now, like looking at my budget when I was creating it for the show, I was like, wow, I'm spending way too much on food right now, and I need to cut that back.
Yeah.
But I would try to just eat at home as much, like I was living at my parents, eat at home as much as I possibly could. Um, at Georgia Tech, I was in Atlanta, so I was had my own apartment with roommates, which is a big cost saver.
Hmm.
And I I just bought like the cheapest stuff. I shopped at Aldi. You
Yeah.
ever shop at Aldi?
Yeah,
That store's amazing.
yeah, so they expanded into at least the Southeast around the time where I was kind of leaving the Southeast, right? Like when
Yeah.
I left Gainesville, it was basically like straight to California, and then people
Hmm.
started really talking about Aldi. Like back when I was in Florida, like Wawa was like the newest thing, and that was like the first gas
Oh
station in
yeah.
like Orlando, and like I would seek that out. But Aldi's started a little bit, but I never really in college in Gainesville, I don't think that we had an Aldi at least. I'm not sure if we even have an Aldi now, but it wouldn't have been in South Florida because I never really did a lot of shopping in South Florida.
Yeah, yeah. So Aldi's like the cheapest grocery store. It's really really good deals
Yeah.
and shop there every time.
Better
So
than Publix?
that that was way cheaper than Publix. I don't know
Wow.
if it's better. It's probably not better as far as quality goes, but it's pretty cheap and pretty nice. I don't live next to one right now, so if I would, I would definitely still be shopping there.
Yeah, but do they have subs?
They do not have subs.
Ah, all right. At least,
You
yeah.
you got to go to Aldi for your meals and everything to cook, and then Publix to the
Gotcha.
subs. But
Nice,
then again,
nice.
it's like $10 for a solid sub at Publix, so try
Yeah,
to avoid that. I
yeah.
remember in in I think undergrad, because I was skimping by it like zero money in my checking account, and
Nice, nice.
me and my buddies would pull all-nighters like fairly often, because we were trying to get good grades and also procrastinating too much probably because we hung out a little bit too much during the day, and then especially when I was coaching. So if I was coaching, I would do school like 8 to 3, and then I would have coaching practice at 3 to 5, and then drive back to school and study then. So I remember my checking account. I think I spent my last $1.50 that were in my checking account for a Monster Energy drink to make it past.
You're like,
Make
I need this Monster
it.
Energy drink more than I need this $1.50 left in my checking.
Yeah,
Wow. And it's interesting looking back at that time too for like volleyball time in my world because looking at the sacrifice coaches make as well, right? Like
yeah,
coaches need to drive to practice, spend the time there, and it's just like I'm not sure how well volleyball coaches, especially like high school volleyball coaches, even get paid, but it's just like, man, like you have a lot of time where you're just driving back and forth and like not even, you know, you
yeah.
you
High
know,
school high school coaches, definitely it's more for the passion than
yeah.
the money for sure. You can once you do like private lessons and stuff like that, you can start making a decent
Mhm.
paycheck and stuff from that, or club stuff like that.
I
But high
just
school itself is, yeah, you don't get paid a lot, especially as an assistant.
I just remember being like thinking about it. I was talking with Coach Frank recently. This specific conversation was like a couple years ago, and I was just like, dude, like I never appreciated like the time that you guys put into it as
Oh yeah,
coaches because for me, this is just like high school. Right when I'm done with classes, I walk into the gym and I'm just like dicking around, like I'm just having fun, just like enjoying being in high school and being on the
yeah,
team. I mean, I took it seriously, obviously, but it was just more like didn't wasn't any formal. I didn't look at it as a time commitment as I would now if I were to dedicate hours and hours and hours a week, right?
yeah,
Daily, like just grinding. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, I look at that job as like a really intensive because it's like outside of work as well. You must be looking at like, you know, lineups and plays and different kind of ways that it just there's so much that goes into coaching that I just never appreciated when I was
oh
in
yeah, for sure.
in high school. Like I knew it would happen, but I didn't logically put it together.
Yeah, and we were so lucky. We had really good coaches.
Yeah,
Like
you
that
really
was
did.
like Frank was awesome.
Yes.
Jay who was awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, it was Zarate, who I know I played for. He was a really good coach.
Yeah.
We had like so many solid guys that coached us like
Yeah.
throughout the entire time. It was
Z-
pretty cool.
Zarate was my first coach, real coach,
Oh,
I would
really?
say. Yeah. It was right when Ronnie first started OBV.
Yeah,
Like right then, there was only girls teams, and then they were just starting a guys team right after, like at some point,
yeah.
and like it was crazy. And then Coach Mililani, Coach Millie,
Oh, yeah. I remember her. She was
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
I
so
didn't have
she,
her as a coach too much, but yeah,
yeah, she was there right when I started, and she was cool, man. But
Yeah,
yeah, so again, a lot of I love that time of my life. But yeah, as far as coaches and the time commitment versus what they got paid, it makes a lot more sense why club is so expensive, you know,
yeah,
because I would hope that they would actually get paid better.
for
Um,
sure.
and so but yeah, and so um, as you went through your school and had your like some odd jobs, like how with especially with the graduate research assistant, the transition from there, right? When you were done with graduate school, what was that experience like applying for and hopefully getting into like a really like getting a nice offer from a company?
Yeah, so I did that early. So I applied for a whole bunch of jobs. Is basically my other part-time job as I was
Yeah.
in college. So I applied to a whole bunch of jobs. I think probably like 6 months before I graduated, maybe even I think I might have done it like a year before I graduated actually.
Hmm.
So everything I had on my resume from school, I was just like starting out these projects, and I was honest about that. Like I'm on these like 3, 4 projects, uh, and I'm going to be doing this, this, and this, but I didn't actually have that experience yet. But I applied a whole bunch. I went to some conferences and stuff, and I got an offer from Boeing. I think January 2019 or December 2018.
December
Yeah,
2018.
so
Yeah.
I knew I had a job lined up uh, pretty far in advance, which was nice.
How was that like the interview process and like like do you have to talk with a whole bunch of different companies as well? Like what was
Yeah, I talked to a few different companies. I talked, um, yeah, I don't know.
you
I
don't have to
had,
say too many
I
details
don't
there.
need to
Yeah.
say the names,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
did have other offers as well. I had
Nice.
one other offer that I was considering. So I had, once you have one offer, it's nice to go in with a confidence. I feel like it gets the nerves out of the way for like the next interviews, and I always
Yeah.
do a little better when I
Right.
have that aside. I'm like, I know I have something going, and then uh, the the Boeing side of stuff, it seemed really interesting because I get to do like research, the research side of the house instead of like the general engineering, which I find a little more interesting, a little more
Cool.
along the
So,
lines of research assistantship type thing.
yeah, so interesting. So, yeah, again, every time I look at like an aerospace anything, but like aerospace engineer, it's just like you guys are basically like astronauts. I said earlier. Um,
Yeah, no, currently I'm working on planes,
yeah,
so not an astronaut, but some of my research was on like missiles and stuff like that for
mm,
Georgia Tech.
gotcha. You like
Yeah,
self-defense stuff, I'm sure.
yeah.
And then with the work you do here, basically, you're just doing a lot of research on like aerodynamics of planes and basically like how can they maybe be like fuel efficient if they have like this thing curved in at like another half a degree in versus you know
Yeah, yeah. So, I'm in the Boeing Research and Technology branch, which basically we're not defense, we're not commercial side, we're kind of next generation, I guess, type plane. So we're doing a lot of the early stage development, and I'm doing stability and control analysis for different types of aircraft and like smaller ones, bigger ones, some commercial, some defense. And then yeah, I'm also do demonstrator projects, which basically demonstrate some of the new technologies we're trying to prove, I guess.
the planes of the future
Yeah,
you're creating. It's super cool to think about,
trying.
right? Like when
Yeah,
we're, doing whatever we're doing like 5, 10 plus years from now, it's like we're gonna be flying these like new like beautiful planes that like yeah, like that part of that wing, I remember how that was created.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, yeah. Very cool, very cool. And so, I think the going from that point in your life again, from being like that college student to now being able to like work full time, but then also seeing that offer letter come in with the salary number, there's probably a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
thoughts that
yeah, for sure.
come into
Like,
mind.
yeah, it was definitely quite the transition, I think, mentally, because I mean I had the stability as I said before, but I never had any any extra money to
Yeah.
invest. Like investing wasn't even like it didn't even cross my mind. Like it seems like something cool that would you could learn about, I could learn about, but it wasn't
Hmm.
practical. I'm not gonna, I don't know. I guess I could have invested $5 and like maybe had one more ramen meal a night and be able to put that in the stock market.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
The
it
last
was always
question.
paycheck to paycheck.
Right, right. The last question I'll ask before we dive into your spending is, do you remember like your actual first memories around money and maybe your personal like first purchases or experiences with spending it?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. My first memory with money, I think I was like 12 or 13, and I heard something about this stock that was supposed to be like go big, it's penny stock, of course. Penny stocks, you're gonna become a millionaire if you put
Yeah.
like a couple dollars into it. So I think I had my parents like I gave them like $50 in like investment to put in their investment account and just take that and watch it grow, and I think it went bankrupt. So I think it was a good it either went bankrupt or I don't even remember the stock name. Either went bankrupt or just like crashed. I think it went yeah, it got reallocated from like a major stock to like something dot ob or something like
Mm,
that. But yeah, that was my first experience, and led to a lot
just
of more experiences
yeah.
similar on later in life.
Yeah, totally. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. So what I'll bring up now is we spoke about a lot already and getting to know you, but now let's bring up actually how your monthly spending looks like in present day scenarios. So you
Sure,
mentioned what I'll do is I'm going to share it for everybody on the internet full screen, and then we'll go into a side by side. But here's a first look at your monthly spending specifically. And so as we go into this, maybe walk us through a little bit of these categories and how you're about and how you really allocate your money towards it.
sure. I'm gonna take a look at it on my screen here just to get a refresher.
Yeah.
So yeah, my monthly spending has been different every month, it seems like. So I'm just starting to get back into a routine now and starting to um, work work that through a little bit more than I was before. So this this is kind of May what happened May, and then um, earlier on, like this year, it was a little bit different. So I
Right.
the complicated situation, just to explain it a little bit, is I moved out to California August 2019, and then I was working out here for a few months, and then the pandemic hit,
Mm,
and we all went remote following that. So after it seemed like it was going remote for a long time, I moved back to Florida to be around my family and stuff like that, and that changed taxes, it changed income, it changed
oh wow.
rent and everything. So, and then I recently moved back out and then had to buy like furniture and stuff like that. So I, it's been a lot of shifting around, and I think doing this made me realize I need to start looking at my budget again a little bit more now that things are more common. But anyway,
Yeah.
so um, what I'm doing now, roughly, I'm putting about 20% of my paycheck into long-term investments, and then about 20 into rent, utilities, 15 into car transportation, all that type of stuff. I have a car loan, so I'm paying that off slowly but surely. And then personal miscellaneous, that's kind of my grab bag. That's a lot larger than should be with a good budgeting system going, but that has like random expenses, like I've been having back problems, so going to get a massage, get that worked out a little bit, go in the doctor, birthdays, some donations, stuff like that. And then I got the rest, 13% savings, try to have like 5% into travel, just fun stuff, maybe going out. And then I do 2%, which is like Netflix, uh, gym membership, stuff like that. And then I do still have that risky investment category where I kind of just have a little bit of fun with
Nice.
and try out different things. So this is after retirement investing.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna
So
ask. Yep.
I did my retirement and I don't look at it. So I try not to touch it or have that included as far as anything mentally as if like I have money. So yeah, I think I try to save money on some areas and then probably some areas I'm spending a little bit more money than I should necessarily, but get more enjoyment. Like as far as rent, I think that's fairly low, especially for Huntington Beach. So I have like a few roommates, and I don't mind living in a smaller room. I don't mind it at all. So I I like cutting back on those type of areas. Stuff like buying clothing. Uh, don't have greatest wardrobe selection, but I don't care that much. So I don't. I try to cut on the stuff that I don't know. I don't get a lot of enjoyment out of, or I don't find it necessary in my own life, and then put a little bit more money into stuff that I really enjoy. Maybe the car payment more than uh more than rent and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I'd say that makes sense though, right? I mean, realistically, as long as you're enjoying what you're spending your money on, that's what counts, right? When you're playing beach
Yeah.
volleyball, you don't really need shirts, so like, why do I
Yeah.
need an extra shirt? So,
Exactly.
I'm sure in Southern California it does get somewhat cold relative to Florida, but um,
Yeah. Yeah. I
shirts
mean,
might be
I
somewhat
have
necessary.
clothes.
Yeah.
I do have clothes.
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And so when you say, we'll start with the long-term investments here. Actually, before we go into all of these categories, you mentioned during the pandemic that you moved home. Did you actually go through HR to actually go get it paycheck to Florida and that
Yes.
redistributed like,
Yeah.
wow. And then you had to
Yeah.
go back to California and then they changed up your stuff
Yeah.
already. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you changed your actual address with the company.
Yeah. I went to a full-time work employee, went through that process, and I moved back to Florida and got so I saved taxes that way basically because Florida doesn't have income taxes. But I mean that was a small portion. I just kind of wanted to be around family and stuff like
Right.
that.
But just the effect on that with taxes and with just the work situations as well, like just with a company, like to be able to do. I thought about if that was possible in Intel, but it's like you just have to change. It's very interesting. It's a very interesting
Yeah.
situation. What was Boeing pretty flexible on that?
Yeah, they were pretty flexible.
And when
I
you
mean,
made, yeah, what were you gonna
go
say?
ahead.
You said
I
so.
mean,
Yeah.
they were flexible with it. Like I just asked my manager, and nobody was going into work
Sorry, it was just.
ever. I mean,
Yeah. What are they gonna
I've
say?
still
Yeah.
I've still been in. I think I've been in the office once since the beginning of the pandemic, maybe twice, even
Yeah.
though I moved back here. But I I'm expecting to go back in soon, I think. But that it's also possible that we might do full-time remote.
Right.
It's a little still not sure how that's going to work, but yeah.
When you went to Florida, what was the effect on your like the salary, and did you feel the positive effect of the taxes as well? So it kind of would it complement each other. Like, what was that like?
Yeah, I definitely felt the positive effects of taxes. I think it's like 9%,
Less taxes.
9% less taxes,
Oh
maybe like
man.
8%. So it was a significant increase, and that's something I feel like you don't. think about that often. You think about cost of living. There's definitely cost of living changes too, differences,
Hmm.
and everybody talks about that. But California, I think the highest tax rate in the country,
Hmm.
so that's definitely definitely a big factor on the monthly income.
Right. So did they change your salary when you went back to Florida too for that time?
No, no,
Wow,
they just kept the salary. So
that's sick.
maybe I was cheating the system, but I was upfront with everything. So um,
Wow.
when you go full time remote, they just give your figure out the taxes based off your home location, your work location. So
That's cool, man.
yeah.
That's cool. Wow. Wow. All right. A lot of thoughts, a lot of like things going on in my mind.
Maybe I'll try going back.
Wow, that's sick. Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like that's really cool. Really cool. Good for you. So, when now, yeah, let's go into the long-term investment stuff. So this, um, I assume, do you what you use some tools to be able to do these long-term investments and maybe potentially even start, but like you might have had a tool at some point. I'm not sure if you keep in touch with those tools of budgeting as well to see your numbers, but like what kind of tools do you use to track and monitor some of these spending, and also invest with?
Yeah, so I use for tracking everything, I use um personal capital and mint. I use both of them. They're both really good. I don't have a huge preference on one. I think personal capital is a little bit better for tracking like asset allocation and stuff like that, and mint seems to work a little better for me for spending.
Hmm.
So as far as budgeting and like upcoming bills, it could just be like I don't know the functionality of personal capital or mint completely, but it seems I just look at both of them and um, figure that out. And then yeah, as far as investing tools, if we want to get into that now, I think I use a few different investing. So I do like TD Ameritrade. I use Robinhood. That might be a little bit more for risky investments. I use Betterment as well for robo advising, and I did use Acorns for a little while as well when I was starting out.
So a lot of your initial experimentation, right? How do you, from somebody who again was in college without a lot of discretionary funds to potentially consider investing, how did you come across these to begin with, and what was your main, like, what were some of the first platforms you started with that got you really excited about this space?
So So yeah, I think the first ones, everybody started out kind of with Robinhood. I feel like everybody was sending those referral codes and stuff like that. So that was easy. I just looked online for what the best uh best like investing when you're starting off. You don't know anything, you know.
Hmm.
So I used Acorns to start out, and then I like did some like personal stock picks on like Robinhood at first. And then I like Acorns a lot. It's pretty nice. I assume you guys most people know, but it takes like every time you spend money, it takes like it rounds it up to $1 and then invest that, and then you can do that like 5 times or 10 times if you want to have just like every time you make a transaction. So it's kind of like helping your budgeting a little bit too, and it's helping your investing. So I do like it a lot. I just stopped using it because I I moved into more like hands-on approach for some things. There's not much changes you can make as far as how you invest. So
Hmm.
I kind of went from there to Betterment. I kind of that bucket from uh, Acorns to Betterment because I started doing more like exact amounts of investing from my paycheck. So kind of like how I try to separate out the retirement from my budget as well. I try to separate out the investing from what I see in my account. So every every pay period, every 2 weeks, I do automatic investments whenever I get my paycheck. So as soon as I get the money in, the money goes out.
Nice.
And that way, with having acorns, it's kind of based off your spending, and it's not exactly a
Hmm.
set price.
Yeah.
But I do really like acorns. I think it's pretty useful, especially for starting out when I wasn't sure how much I could invest, and then it kind of held you accountable to not spend too much money. So
Cool.
I would recommend it if people are. It's easy, hands off. You just put your risk assessment, and you automatically don't have to think about it, which is kind of cool.
And you're talking about the risk assessment stuff is with Betterment
That that's
or
that's
with
with
both?
acorns.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, Betterment. It's more like goals based investing. I know
Yeah.
Betterment and like Wealthfront also has some really good robo advising too. I haven't gotten looked at Wealthfront too. I just started out with Betterment, but I heard both are really good.
Yep.
So I do like Betterment because you can set specific goals. So I have a general investing, long term, which you just put like the date and what your target is. And that's more or less like I just put a far out target like around retirement, but it's almost like another retirement type thing.
Fun thing.
And
Yeah.
then I also have just like a safety net there too, which is mostly bonds. It's more or less like instead of a savings account for me, like I have some savings in my checking, and then I do this safety net, which gives a little bit better return than the I don't know the 0.01% you get from a
Right.
savings account. I know there's
Right.
some better high yield savings accounts that are available too. So that might be a better option overall, but uh, that's what I'm currently doing. And then I have like a major purchase one too, which is like 4 or 5 years out, which I throw a little bit of money in there too for like when I get a house or something like that.
For sure. Nice. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Um,
And
s-
then, sorry. And then I also, I think included in that 20% is I do invest in my HSA account as well.
yes. Nice. Nice. And as I've mentioned on this channel before, like HSAs are my favorite.
Oh
Just like
yeah,
you can do
they're
whatever you want
awesome.
in them. They come in, especially again talking about taxes and whatnot here. Like
Yeah.
again, I look at that as like it's tax free, but I obviously need to spend it on health stuff. But yeah, it's just you never know when that rainy day is gonna go happen, and then you
Oh
have
yeah, for sure.
this tax free
For
money
sure.
that you've been putting away, and hopefully is
My
reinvesting a little bit.
yeah, yeah, my thoughts kind of are like when I started out investing, I wanted to make sure I did like the responsible portions first, and I think obviously you don't want to leave any match for your 401k on the table.
Right.
You gotta you gotta capture all that. So do that first. I think second, if you have an HSA, if you don't have high medical expenses right now, you're young, healthy. I think that's like the best thing you can do for investing starting out, because I'm sure you probably mentioned it, but like it's you don't get taxed on it going in, you don't get taxed on the gains, and you don't get taxed on it coming out. And then you're gonna have the medical expenses when you retire.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, everybody has medical expenses. It would be, I mean, you're the luckiest person in the world if you don't spend this money.
Right.
It just grows for free, and and then you can save your receipts like as they come in too. You don't just have to wait till you retire to cash in that money. So
Right.
at least how it's written right now, there's chances that the tax code could change,
Right.
but it seems unlikely. That probably a lot of people would be really mad if it
Yeah.
did.
Yeah,
So
I heard as
yeah.
well that or like right now I believe it's also written like you can if you can make health purchases like if you again the hospital whatever visits doctor visits but you don't actually have to withdraw them for your HSA until later, right? If you just save
Yeah,
those
that
receipts,
that's
that's what you're
exactly
referring to.
what it's saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can you can buy like you can save receipts for like I feel like you can get like ibuprofen and stuff like that, and I don't know for sure, but you can definitely get a lot of different medical advice. It doesn't have to be like prescription only.
Hmm.
You can get a lot of stuff, so you'll be able to write that stuff up off for sure then.
It's so awesome.
So
It's so
yeah,
awesome.
I'm doing match and then maxing out my HSA for the yearly amount,
Awesome. Yeah.
and then the rest is where I've been like messing around a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
figure out what what best to do.
Yeah. And so yeah, and we'll get into that a little bit when we start talking about your specific investing stuff, although that was a
Sure.
pretty good deep dive. Um, And so when we go and talk about rent and utilities, especially obviously in Huntington Beach, I think like there's a certain ratio that I've seen online that's like if you spend less than like a third of your income on rent, you're doing pretty well. Like you're
Yeah.
managing your rent your money pretty decently, and you see like 20% here, fantastic, dude, right? Obviously, like
Yeah.
that's solid. Um, the question in Huntington Beach is how far from the beach are you?
I'm like I'm a couple miles. It's not too
Gotcha.
bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's so beautiful. It's just
it's
such
really nice.
an
It's
amazing
way
place.
nice. It's way better here than like LA and stuff like that. So uh up there it's really expensive to find any
Yeah,
place like that.
it's a lot more suburban in
Yeah.
Huntington Beach area. It's a lot like, kind of where we used to live in Florida. It's just like super, super nice, just very
Yeah.
calm. But do you kind of is how is like the younger crowd like seeing and going out and like the fun side of it? Because it does do like do bars and clubs and restaurants close really early there as well?
Uh no, it seems like they have some places that are open
Cool.
fairly late. They have a younger crowd some.
Nice.
I think it's a cool area to hang out. Um there are some it's a little bit older, but there's definitely a lot of young people still. It's
Yeah.
fun.
I just know like some of my perspective. My few times being there, I was just like, this is cool, but and like that's been a pretty big but
Yeah.
uh but uh
Like right
so
around the pier, the Huntington Beach Pier, there's a lot of like fun stuff going on, play
amazing
volleyball
stuff.
and stuff like
Amazing
that.
stuff. Yeah. And I think
There's a
like
lot of protests now, but it seems like that's all I see about it. But
yeah,
it's still a cool place.
some of the biggest pro volleyball players, like in a massive volleyball community, are also is that Huntington or Manhattan?
That's like Manhattan area. There's some really good players in Huntington, but I think Hermosa Beach, Manhattan area, that's where like the top level players
Yeah.
typically play.
Yeah.
That's where like if you're going to go professionally in volleyball, you're gonna live in that area
Yeah.
basically.
Well,
And that's where I played a tournament there yesterday
yesterday,
actually,
yeah.
which was a lot of fun.
Legendary. You just see a lot of
Yeah,
cool people and be like, yeah.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
everybody's just, yeah, somewhat flexing and also like looking at other people, seeing how
yeah.
things are and scoping out
You're
the vibe.
you're definitely gonna see. Well, I guess the FIVB, the international tour, was this weekend, but if there isn't an FIVB, I mean, there'll be Olympians practicing playing there
Yeah,
every day
very
during the
cool.
weekend.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah,
And then the commute to work when you have to go back into the office, what is that like from where you're at as well?
it's like 20 minutes, 20
Okay,
minutes or
not
so.
too bad.
It's not too bad.
Yeah.
When I was living a little bit closer before I moved back to Florida, so I was when I first moved out here, it was close to that 30% range because I had uh, a pretty nice place, semi close to the beach and really close to work. And then I don't know, I was kind of like, I don't feel like I need that, and it kind of feels a little bit like throwing money away.
Yeah, yeah, like with
Yeah,
high rents and stuff,
yeah,
totally.
yeah,
And then your time as well, though, when you're commuting as well.
mm,
That's what I think about all the time. I just hate that.
yeah,
But yeah, I can see that. If it's just arbitrary, just rent to rent, just
yeah.
to be in a cool spot, depends on location. But yeah, 100%. And
Hmm.
then talking about transportation, so car and transport. So is this primarily When you're saying car and transport, it's just like oil, like
Yeah, so it's my car payment mostly.
hmm
So I got a Tesla, which
nice.
doesn't involve any maintenance basically. I do have to pay for charging, which is a little bit less than gas if I like go to a supercharger or something like that.
hmm
But yeah, that's mainly just the car payment, car insurance, and then electricity.
Yeah. So do
Yeah.
you have one of those house ports too, or do you have to go actually charge it somewhere?
I have to go actually charge it somewhere. So
Gotcha.
that is something that if I paid a little bit more in rent, maybe got a garage or something like that, then it would have a little cost savings from that car and transport. But right now it's not that much, and I'm not driving that much. So right now, especially if I'm not going into work,
hmm
then I don't need that. But my work location has chargers there. So whenever I start going into work, I can start charging for free. But right now I'm not. I
Big
guess
perk.
in some ways it will probably be cheaper once I start going into work, which is counterintuitive. But
Right, right. How, for those of us, or gas people, how much does it usually cost to fill up, well, like on electricity for your Tesla? Like if you're to go from almost zero to full.
yeah, so going from almost zero to full, that would probably run around $20
Okay.
and get about 300 miles of range, a little bit less than that. So I don't know what
It's your
for like
math
300
there,
miles
but
for
yeah.
gas. Do you know how much that is?
Uh, I mean, let's just say average car today, I would assume would be about like 30 miles a gallon, right?
Yeah,
Like 25, 30. And then could probably put like my tank I think can have like I don't know, is 10 gallons a lot for a tank? I don't know.
I think it's a little,
When I moved up to
little
San
kind of
Francisco,
small.
I definitely left my car down in South Bend. I don't haven't filled up in a long time, really.
Yeah,
So I don't recall how I think my tank was like some sort of was it 3.6 liter or
yeah,
6.3? I don't remember. A 3.6 liter engine, but I'm not
yeah.
sure
I
if
guess
that's the tank.
based off my last car, I didn't have a big tank either, and I remember it running me like 30, 35 to fill up, and it got around like 300 miles range. I had a small tank, so I
Mm.
think it's like probably $10 cheaper if you're doing a supercharger, which is not not the cheapest way to charge, but it's fast.
And uh does it make a difference in cost going from a supercharger to like another different charger? Are they all called superchargers?
So the superchargers are like the Tesla specific ones, and the other chargers. Some places at like grocery stores, they give like free charging, which is free obviously, but it's a little bit slow. Takes a little bit of time to charge. So I guess I haven't found one close to me that's like super cheap. But if you would do it at home, it would be
Yeah.
pretty pretty small difference on the electricity bill overall.
And
So
the amount of time as well, let's just say at a supercharger, standard time, like how long do you usually find yourself waiting there? And do you usually fill up full, or do you usually, I think there's like a recommended percentage to usually fill it up with?
yeah, I typically do like 80, 90% because that helps with the battery. And I I kind of just park. There's one right next to the grocery store I go to. So whenever I go there, I just park and charge full. So if I were to go all the way to the bottom at a supercharger, then it would take like 30 minutes or so to fully charge. But I would just do that when I
Yeah.
grab some food or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely interesting. And I was just having a really long conversation about this with somebody recently as well. But like when you're going on, would you think you'd be able to do like a pretty solid road trip with that Tesla?
Yeah, it's nice because they have the planning
Mm-hmm.
on the map itself. So when you ever put in a destination, it automatically routes you to chargers and estimates the time that it will take. So I definitely uh, don't have a problem with like taking on trips. If you were going on like a mountain trip, probably a different car would be good just because I don't know if you don't have signal or something like that, or if
Yeah,
you I don't know if you're stuck in the middle of the woods. I don't
yeah,
know. I'd be a little more comfortable with that. But as far as like going from here to Florida, that wouldn't be an issue because you just stop, and then it's every like 5 hours or so, which is kind of when I would typically take a break anyway for gas, and that's I usually when I get gas, I get food and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Very cool. And yeah, man, very interested in the Tesla life and understanding how that really works with the finances as well. And I think hopefully when you bought it, when you financed it, whatever, sorry, however you did it, like, were you able to get any tax rebates or incentives from there too?
No, because I did it used to save a little bit of money off of it, and right now they didn't have. I guess they had some tax rebates for a new car. So it didn't seem to save much money overall
Gotcha.
for my position what I was looking for. So I I was able to finance it, get a pretty good rate. I decided not to put much money down just because
Right.
I don't know, people have different philosophies on that. I kind of used to be the no debt guy a little bit, kind of like Dave Ramsey's. I like a lot of things. I read his book and stuff, but
Nice.
I do like from a engineering perspective, I just like to have the numbers. And if I'm paying 3% interest on it and I get an average return from the stock market 8%, it just doesn't make sense to me to
Yep.
pay it off right away and not have that money working. Obviously, it's not 8% every year, but
Right.
on average, if you do solid long-term investing and not the stupid risky stuff,
We'll get to that soon,
you're
sure.
you're going to typically make more money. So on average, I felt like it was smarter to
Yep.
pay it off slowly, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's good debt and there's bad debt, right? And
Yeah,
I would agree if you have a low interest rate, like a 3% loan on something like that,
yeah,
for sure, especially if you're able to, again, be pretty confident in your returns everywhere else, then
yeah,
it seems to make sense, right? Because you're just effectively buying an asset that can appreciate or depreciate.
yeah.
Um,
And another thing that I like about the Tesla is that um, I'm really interested in the technology with full self-driving
mm,
that's going on, and that's kind of my uh, guilty pleasure as far as what I'm spending it on. So
nice.
that I'm not really a car guy in general. I'm more like interested in the technology going about it, and then like whenever they do become like fully autonomous, I could start like using it to taxi people around and stuff like that, which I don't, it might not ever become like that. I might not decide I want to give away my car for the day, but
Right.
um, I don't know. Within the next couple years, it seems like they're already testing it out and having fairly good success with some of the beta programs that are going on. So
Yeah.
it seems not too far off.
Yeah, 100%. And I think they have been getting into some hot water recently about that full self-driving and how they've been marketing their cars and the words they've been using. But yeah, I do think it should be coming. I'm not super worried about it in the near term, but yeah, long term, it's definitely an interesting opportunity.
Yeah,
Um, interesting opportunity for them.
definitely it's definitely not an investment,
Yeah,
but
it's
it's kind of
it
cool that it uh might be able to work that way. And then they
right.
kept they keep boosting up the price of the that software. So I got in at a lower price and it's gone up like $3,000 or $4,000 since
It
I
has. I
bought it.
see. Yeah, I see a lot of articles of people not super happy about it. So,
Yeah.
but it is what it is, right? They can do what they want. Um, very cool. And so let's talk more about this personal miscellaneous category of 15% here. Tell us more about this and what you know. You already mentioned some of the things that go in there, but tell us, you know, a deeper dive now of what you usually would pull from here.
Yeah, so this would be like haircuts, the random expenses that aren't monthly. I think those, since I haven't been doing good at budgeting, this is
Understood.
a bigger piece of the pie than I want to have. So I think in the next couple months, I'm gonna wind that down and get it more consistent. But yeah, it's just like personal care. If I'm doing some shopping, if I like get some stuff on Amazon, online shopping, stuff like that. Been doing a little too much online shopping lately. Uh, and then yeah, just I like I have some of that for like birthday and like donating stuff because Boeing has a really cool like match program that if you donate to a nonprofit organization, they match it and donate the same amount
Hmm,
uh
cool.
to that to that organization. So that's kind of cool to take advantage. Well,
Very
up to
cool.
$10,000, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Per employee.
per employee. So yeah.
Wow. Nice. Very cool.
Oh no, I might be missing some stuff, but I think
Yeah.
that's the main stuff.
Registering for volleyball tournaments, you know.
Yeah, I'm registering for volleyball tournaments,
Probably
playing the
being that.
raffle.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, exactly,
yeah,
exactly. Very cool. And then, yeah, if anything comes to mind, feel free to bring it back up.
yeah,
And then food, 13%. So,
yeah,
that seems like you know, I think that's more decent than not, really, when it comes to a lot of people and the percentage on food. But like, yeah, tell us more about this and you know, you're eating in versus out versus cooking versus, you know, ramen.
yeah. So I've moved on a little bit past ramen now, which is
Nice.
nice, but I don't like cooking that much. Especially if I'm just cooking for myself. So I do eat out and occasionally even get DoorDash, which is like the worst thing ever because it's like $20 for a burger.
So expensive. Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess food, drinks, going to restaurants, and that groceries are included in that. So right now I'm spending like, if you broke it down, I think I'm spending like 50% on restaurants, 50% on groceries, maybe even a little bit more on restaurants.
Okay.
So if I spend more on restaurants, then I spend less on groceries, of course. But I want, I think next step, I probably need to bring down the restaurant spending and and then the grocery spending will of course be a lot less.
Do you have like a specific kind of, do you have like a go-to restaurants you usually are at all the time, or is it more like you spread the love around?
I spread the love around a little bit. It depends what I'm feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a good breakfast place in the morning, like getting eggs Benedict on the weekend or something.
Nice.
Uh,
Nice.
and then there's yeah, there's a few different places. Uh, but sometimes I just go to the grocery store and get like a sandwich or something like that from grocery store. So that's kind of in groceries, but it's really just you paying for a meal.
A meal. Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then there's
And
also
then if it's social and stuff like that, then I don't mind doing the social stuff like that. That's fine. It's just when I'm too lazy to make food because it's also a health thing too.
mhm,
So it's way better to cook your own stuff uh, and then save the money. Better for
100%.
your health. So trying to
100%.
cut that back a little bit.
There's a restaurant down there, you said breakfast. I think it's called The Good Stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. That place is really
The
good.
Good, yeah, just Good Stuff. It's called Good
Yeah,
Stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, my brother loves that spot. Just good stuff. In
My
Redondo,
my brother
Hermosa.
actually mentioned it too. He likes it as well. So my old place was like a mile away from that that place.
Oh, wow, nice.
So
Yeah.
it's really good, really solid. And they
Yeah,
have fairly healthy food too.
it's good stuff. Yeah, exactly. It's good
It's good
stuff.
stuff.
I
Great
said that
name.
without even realizing. Yeah. Yeah, great ham. Yeah, I don't remember what.
No, great name.
Great name. Great name.
Yeah.
Again, just getting hungry with it, you know, talking about it.
I'm gonna
But
get a
yeah,
DoorDash now.
it's been like yeah, just DoorDash is. I assume. Do you have you ever tried like Uber Eats or other platforms as well, or is just your DoorDash is your go-to?
Well, DoorDash is my go-to because I have an American Express credit card and it gives me Dash Pass. It might be my Chase credit card. One of my credit cards is it gives
Hmm,
free delivery, so that
cool.
does cut down the cost a little bit.
Really, it
But
does.
you're still tipping and stuff like that, which is tipping is really more than the delivery fee,
Right.
unless you're being mean.
Being an asshole. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I I do DoorDash for that reason. Because
Yeah.
I think I get a little bit of bonus too. I get like 6% cash back on DoorDash. I think it might be maybe
Heck yeah.
3%. It's
Totally.
decent.
You can make it
So
work with your credit card
yeah,
rewards.
it's
That's
still
amazing.
not a good move to get
Right, right.
it.
So you're getting such a good deal. I'm getting like all these percentages back where it's just like, yeah, but eating
Yeah.
out and like actually physically going there is probably going to save you like,
Oh, for
you
sure.
know,
For sure.
50% at least. So,
Yeah.
yeah, got it, got it, got it. And then, yeah, so then savings, 5%. So does this just go into a regular checking or savings account or,
Yeah, so this goes into savings and it goes some of it goes into my betterment, like safety net. So right now I have a little bit less savings than I would like to have. Overall, I think I have like the 3 month safety net,
hmm,
which is like the minimum, but I put like a lot more in like longer term investing, like as I've seen the opportunity. But then I think I've been trying to pull back that a little bit and just go into savings, so I have a little bit more flexibility with stuff,
so,
investing and stuff like that,
right,
or yeah,
so
buying
you're
a house
saying,
maybe at some point.
right, and so you're saying you're reallocating that more for personal flexibility and the ability to potentially make a big purchase soon.
Yeah, yeah, something like that. I don't see it in the next like 6 months or so, but generally speaking, I'm trying to build up the safety net aspect a
Right.
little bit more.
And
So as far as net allocations, I think 5%, uh 5% is what I'm doing now. Earlier I was doing a little bit less.
right, right. And then just like once it gets to a certain point that you know you're going to be able to afford something and then put the
Yeah.
money down there, you don't have to sell or, realize any gains or losses later. You already have that stuff kind of baked
Hmm.
in pending
Yeah.
the betterment bonds that you have
Yeah.
already. That would be the only thing that might be in this category that, you know, you would have to realize gains or losses on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
very interesting. I do want to talk with you about bonds, but we'll save that for the investing side because I am interested a lot about that and how you've been figuring that out. But
Okay.
before
Yeah.
we get to there, a couple more categories left. So you said travel and fun, 5%. So obviously first things that come to mind in your mind, like what is that for you? And then my follow-up questions like up front is this something that is like a 5% every month, obviously set aside from savings, but just like do they compound? Like does it build on top of each other? If you don't spend, anything for travel and fun this month, does it become like, on top, like added to the next month's 5%, and then you have even more money for travel and fun?
Yeah, basically it compounds. So that's an average. I think it would be like taking a trip back to Florida, maybe going going to a trip to like Joshua Tree or something like that. And for a little bit in my Bank of America savings account, they had savings buckets, which I did like, since
Mm,
I haven't been doing as much in that savings and been doing like more investing and just checking and stuff like that. I don't have that anymore. But what I would do, and I basically have the same philosophy, is I'll try to put like a certain amount for my yearly travel, maybe one big trip, maybe an international trip or something like that during during the summer or something like that, and then I would set off aside 5% or something like that and hit that max category, and then I have the money I want to travel this year on the big travel, and then there's the little travel for like Florida and stuff like that that's not as expensive. And
right.
then I would I I did I really like the buckets thing. I might try to like get that again, the checking account or something like that. But I would just have like a category. Christmas, I know that's gonna be a expense. I would fill that up for like a few $100s for Christmas presents, $500 or something like that, and then put like the bucket for like travel and stuff like that. So fill each bucket up, and then
Right,
okay, I'll stop allocating that here because I've met my goal for the year.
right. I will say, do you have any specific savings accounts that you like to use outside of like in the bond stuff with Betterment, or yeah, tell us more
No,
about that.
right now I just have my checking account that
Gotcha.
I keep cash in. I might look into getting a separate savings outside of
Like,
the Betterment and Bank of America. That's probably the next thing
yeah,
I'll do
like
shortly.
a high
But
yield.
a high yield, I'll probably I'll probably switch eventually from that Betterment savings account. I'm thinking I'll probably take it out of there and go to a different high yield savings account just because I don't know, I don't have a lot of knowledge about bonds. If you wanted to talk about that later, we could, but I
Yeah.
don't, it doesn't seem like it doesn't seem as profitable right now.
Hmm.
It doesn't seem like the yields are very good. So I'll probably switch that out, but I still wanted to be saving that, and it has been getting me a decent return, I guess, but
Yeah.
compared to Bank of America savings.
Yeah, we can talk about that later in a sec. But yeah, one thing I will openly my favorite thing that I've come across over the pandemic, it's hard to get more than like a point zero, like a 0.5% APY anywhere right now for high yield savings,
Yeah.
which is crazy because a couple years ago it was like 2% plus. But the I'm not sure if you've ever heard of Yada
I
Bank.
haven't.
Um,
No.
I use it a lot and I actually recommend it. I have some links here, but the I'm in a group chat with some of the people because they have their own debit card too, which is interesting. Because it connects directly to the savings account, and the savings account I've had basically 1% returns over the last month plus.
Nice.
And sometimes it's 2+%, and so it's just like, and they have the buckets, the categories that you're talking about
Cool.
there.
Cool.
Um, and they make it like the lottery, where it's like for every 25 bucks you have in there, you get like a lottery ticket, and then they
Yeah.
have weekly drawings,
Nice.
and yeah, it's honestly definitely highly recommend it. Um, and I've been seeing some good returns there as far as like a savings account goes.
Cool.
Um,
Cool. Yeah. I'll definitely have to check that out.
yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Um, because I do know quite a bit about savings accounts, I will say. And then with so we spoke a little about travel and fun and then risky investments,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So tell us more about this, and I assume you mentioned this is more about along your Robinhood stuff, and we're going to be talking more about investments in a second. Maybe we'll save it. Again, we're about to talk about investments next. Is there anything
Okay.
right now with your monthly spending that you want to mention with risky investments before you go into like a full conversation about risky investments?
Uh, I think as far as monthly spending, I we can get into the actual investments in a second without going too deep. I think just having a little bit in there to notice the difference. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I I I think part of my goal last year was to get get some knowledge of investing. I since I went from not having any experience with it, I wanted to learn a little bit by doing it and kind of understand why a stock goes up versus down and stuff like that. And for me, a lot of the knowledge I got from that was by having a little bit of skin in the game there.
Mm,
I know 4% isn't a ton, but if that 4% if I get a 50% return or if I get a 100% return on a risky investment, just doubled my travel and fun budget that I can put in. Or
Right.
if I lose it, then like I can't do as much travel and fun. So I kind of noticed that. But generally, of course, I try to keep it low just to make sure it, I don't know, you can't put a risky investment that you're not gonna lose, not gonna, I don't know.
Yeah.
You have to be okay with losing all that money, I guess.
Right. 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 Would you say that a lot of that is like stocks like in platforms like Robinhood or would
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
do you have would you categorize any other types of investments you've made into the risky category?
I guess I've done it in TD Ameritrade too.
Nice.
So I've done
Nice.
those two.
Nice. Very cool. And then anything that you want to mention here, subscriptions and memberships you mentioned, basically gyms and like Netflix.
Yeah,
Uh,
basically.
yeah, so it's pretty straightforward. This is awesome. I appreciate breaking that down. Is there, again, any final comments on this before we transition to your investing?
No, other than this has probably been very different for different months,
Right,
and
right.
hopefully I'm gonna have a little bit less in that miscellaneous, and fi- as things are settling down, I'm like been in California again for a couple months, so I'm
Right.
gonna putting things together.
As
But yeah,
things readjust into
yeah,
the new world that we're heading
the new
into.
normal, yeah,
Yeah,
the old
exactly.
normal,
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
some weird mix between, right?
yeah,
But very cool. And so next, what we'll do is we spoke a lot about investments already here, but between your, roughly 20 to plus four, right? So 24 plus percent here, monthly spending into investments. We also, and it doesn't include your retirement stuff. Let's kind of dive a little bit deeper into your monthly investing, which we have up right here. And I'm going to make it full screen for everybody. But, how about you take us through this and let us know if there's anything specific that you want to call out, like at the start?
sure. Okay, so right here, it's basically all stocks, for the most part. There is that 13%, which is basically kind of from that Betterment savings account, which has been giving me decent returns, I guess. But that's mainly that area. And then I think some of my other robo like advising, I think my target date fund, that there's a little bit of bond allocation in there. And then I have a tiny slice into cryptocurrencies.
Yeah,
But
get
yeah,
some dabble in there.
yeah. So those stocks, yeah, it's mainly just stocks that have been invested for me, and then there's a little bit of those risky investments that are in the stocks, and
Mhm.
then a little bit of bonds and crypto.
Yeah, and so with the stocks first, I think the first things are platforms that you're using are primarily Betterment, TD Ameritrade, Robinhood, and did you have any? You said how much of this do you still have your Acorns up as well?
So I don't have Acorns anymore, so I
Right.
transferred that. But
Gotcha.
I didn't have a whole lot of Acorns overall. But yeah, I think what this is not including is it's everything combined. So um, that's just the allocation in there. So the stocks, that's, I believe the HSA is, this is including HSA and retirement. Um, it's been a second since I put this up, but yeah, I think this is including HSA retirement. So retirement, I've just put target date fund. Don't look at it. I try to get one that made sense and had not, I don't know, wasn't too much expensive as
Right.
far as expense ratios and stuff like that. And then I did a fairly similar thing with my HSA. Um, I think they just did like a mix of foreign domestic stocks and a little bit of bonds. And then I don't know. It's nice because you just don't touch it and then they automatically reallocate it to less risky investments as you move forward. So that's uh, those are really nice, easy to use. You don't have to
Yeah,
touch it. Expense ratios, some of them are expensive. I try to avoid those, but I think overall it's not that bad
right. Do
if
you
you get a
remember
decent
any
one.
numbers of expense ratios off the top of your head, or
Uh,
it's okay if not,
I
because those are
don't.
really,
Yeah,
really, I don't remember either, but I'm just like
yeah,
trying to remember like how much they're all. It all seems, all the expense ratios seems like they're really low, but after the course of like again decades of investing, they actually become like pretty
yeah.
substantial.
And personal capital is good for that as well. So if
Mm,
you can go if you upload everything to personal capital and you look at your investments, they show expense ratios. I think some accounts do, some accounts don't. So you have to make sure they're all included in there. But I think you can just manually include it if it's not there. And then it shows how much you're expected to gain, and it also shows the expense ratio that you're losing
mm.
out. So if you and I did notice there were a few that were like fairly high. I was like, oh wow, I'm over the long term, I'm losing a lot of money if I keep investing in here. So that I think that was a good tool that
Yeah,
personal capital has that Mint doesn't.
very cool. Yeah, very interesting to hear that. And then yeah, and so and then with the bond allocation, is this all through Betterment, or do you actually go out and buy other bonds in different platforms?
I don't have any bonds personally, so I don't have anything non robo advisor uh, bonds, and I think my total net assets bonds is less than that right now, just because of the way my budgeting monthly budget has worked for May. So overall, I don't really know much about bonds,
Right.
and I just anything that I've allocated has personally has been stocks, and then either the target date funds or the Betterment savings has been
Gotcha.
the bonds.
So this is like that 90 10, like 10 split of bonds versus stocks in like the
Yeah,
Betterment and the automated
yeah,
robo investment.
yeah,
Totally makes sense now. Okay, yeah, because I when you join these, they obviously they have this like risk analysis profile that you fill out some questionnaire things, and they'll automatically put you into one of those categories. But this makes total sense now.
yeah,
And then yeah, okay. So that said, 13% is bonds, and that's primarily done through the robo investments, or pretty much
yeah,
all done through robo investments.
yeah,
And yeah, there aren't any specific kinds of uh, like yeah, other like
yeah,
things you've gone out and done on your own. That makes so much more
yeah.
sense. I was
Do
like, yeah,
you do you have a bond knowledge that you would like to share?
no, not really, right? I mean, I do the same thing that you do with these like 90 or 80 10 or like 90 10 or 80 20. I forgot which ones mine are in at the moment. But I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure one of them is I have both Betterment and Wealthfront.
Okay.
And I've
Oh,
when I
interesting.
yeah, because when I first started one, I was like, let me just put the same amount in both and see which one performs better over time.
Oof, I like that.
And I
How's it
did it
going?
for a long time. I honestly think that Wealthfront's done a better job.
Gotcha.
And it's not Betterment. I I think I'm crossing wires a little bit when I'm saying this, but one of them only was doing better because that initial deposit transferred faster, and that day that it transferred, it was a good day to put money in the market.
Oh, gotcha.
And because of that, it already had like a natural advantage
Hmm.
that over time just became more pronounced because at some points over the last few years, I've been doing both since I think 2017 in January.
Yeah.
Over the last 4 plus years, um, I have I've been going through like bi-weekly every pay period, like you, to weekly to bi-weekly again. I've been switching randomly whenever it made
Hmm.
sense. Um, and just that immediate transfer with one of them, and I'm pretty sure Betterment. I think Wealthfront was a faster transfer, but I liked Betterment's UI better.
Yeah, yeah.
Betterment looked better, and I felt like safer with Betterment because it was
It's
polished.
tricky.
But
Yeah,
I think that Wealthfront, I am pretty sure the transfers happen faster, which is why, again, more personal tangent, like in March of last year when shit was going south pretty fast,
yeah,
I also experiment with the savings for both.
yeah.
And I love actually Wealthfront's cash savings account. I can't
Interesting.
recommend that enough either. I have the links for that in the description. I love that because I have all my credit cards being paid through that. And so I can
Gotcha.
earn interest. It's 0.35 or now it's zero point 0.1 actually because they changed it. You was 0.35 interest on your checking account. So interest on a checking account is huge.
Yeah.
And so, so I have that. But back in March, I transferred a lot of the stuff that had my savings, the cash account, into the stocks part of Wealthfront more than I did in Betterment because I felt better about Wealthfront.
Okay,
Um,
interesting.
and but at the end of the day, they're both so similar,
Yeah.
and they probably all invest realistically if you go under the hood, like in the same Vanguard ETFs or whatever they are.
Yeah.
Like they're all the same at the end of the day. But the I think that there's just some sort of small algorithm change between them where again I think it was the speed of deposits in Wealthfront that just it shows that time in the market it really is like the most
Yeah.
important thing. It didn't matter what they were doing,
Yeah.
intermediary or whatever what I'm trying to say. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's where I have would have my bonds as well. I don't know any bonds that I would have had outside of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my those were my conversations. I was looking to like potentially see if you knew like, all right, well, how would you go? There isn't an app for bonds that I
Yeah.
know of that I mean, I'm sure there is, but it's just like that's probably not as exciting as like a Robinhood type of experience,
Yeah.
where you're just like, yeah, let me buy this bond that's gonna give me like 0.5% return for the next like 10 years. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, it's interesting what you were mentioning about the UI with Betterment because it's so frustrating, like how the established financial advisors and financial systems, like their UIs just are
so
not
bad.
good at all. They're so
Yeah.
bad, and like Betterment is amazing. Robinhood has such a nice UI, and like it seems like they have a lot of other issues, with like
Yeah.
the finances and like being able to trade and having enough money on hand and stuff like that. That they're not like the best platform to go with.
Right.
I would say I don't think they're awful. I think it's fine, but like it's incredible that like TD Ameritrade and like Fidelity, their
Just
UI just are not good,
it
and
just yeah.
it's not like once you get used to it, it's fine. But I don't know.
I think what in my if I were to assume what had happened, it was just like these big companies you just mentioned, plus like I'll throw in like E-Trade as an example too. It's just like all these established, you know, former major like investment hubs all had their internet website designs primarily like in the again when they internet became a thing like really broadly used like specifically even as early as the 80s into the 90s and then stuff's just changed and they've haven't really caught up really in the
Yeah.
UI department. I'm sure all their tools again I know their tools are some of the best but
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
ultimately the visuals and the aesthetics it's confusing and it's like a lot of sensory overload when you see it because it has so much to do in each of those platforms
Yeah.
that you kind of get overlooked. But we're at the robo advisor, it's just like, hey, give us money every couple X increment of time that you set, and we'll automatically allocate it for you. And there isn't as much control over buying and selling stocks, or could be call options. I mean, Robinhood would probably be the most applicable comparison to a Fidelity or TD or E-Trade because of the
Yeah.
amount of stuff you can do in Robinhood versus like a Wealthfront or Betterment. Um,
Hmm.
but as far as even just simply savings and broader just account views, yeah, a lot of the older plot like big banks just suck kind of, you know.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not cool.
And it wouldn't be hard to make their UI better. Like you just need like a small team of engineers work it out for like 6 months. Of course, I do understand that probably there would be a lot of resistance to it because they have a lot of existing customers. And
Right,
when you change any UI, even if it's overall better,
right,
it's tough to get used to it for a little while.
right.
So
And
if
things
you
could
have
break.
like somebody's been using TD Ameritrade for 30 years and then you all of a sudden make it look like Robinhood or something like that, then the customer experience, like there's a reason why they haven't, but
Yeah,
it's so
yeah.
frustrating.
Super completely agree. Yeah, I mean, I would assume the worst thing to happen is like things break, it happens over the weekend, then Monday's a crazy trading day and nobody knows how to use their,
Yeah,
platforms.
yeah,
And then it's just like I could see that indirectly causing some sort of panic. Um, and then crypto's here.
yeah,
Speaking of, I don't think these are available yet on the big banks and funds like or TD, E-Trade, Fidelity type of conversation. But on
yeah.
Robinhood you can.
Hmm.
Is that where you've purchased most of your crypto, or do you
Yeah,
also use other?
that's where I have my crypto. So I don't have Coinbase or anything like that. But yeah, I didn't know much about crypto until last year. I still don't know a lot, but I my buddy convinced me to that I needed to get into it, like in I don't know October, which
It's a
of
good time.
course was a good time to convince me.
Yeah,
So I was like, okay, I'll put a little bit of money into it and see where it goes. Kind of having if I have an investment, it's got almost like betting on sports. Like if you put $100 on your team to win, then you're gonna watch the game a little closer.
yeah, exactly. It's
So
really though.
I didn't I didn't put a whole lot into it, but I I bought some um I bought some Ethereum and Bitcoin, of course, and
Beautiful.
and then a little bit of Doge as
Back in
well.
October, all in October.
Yeah. So
Wow, great
so
times to buy everything, obviously in crypto.
yeah. So I I did I did mainly Ethereum and I did mainly Ethereum and Bitcoin, and then I did Doge maybe like September, maybe December. It was a little bit ago, but I only put like $100 because I saw like Elon tweet about it, and I was like, oh, this would be hilarious. So I gotta put a little bit of money in, but I got it. It was in at like I don't know
6 cents.
7 cents, six
Yeah,
cents, something like that. So the $100 turned into like 1,500.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
It's
then
crazy.
and then I messed around with that a little bit. So I did some trading back and forth, so a little bit of day crypto trading. But what I did
Nice.
was I just took out my initial $100 investment and then kept going with other stuff.
Totally, totally. I mean, yeah, when you're already like that, that's a, jackpot more or less.
Yeah.
You know, um, that's great, man. And so have you considered or looked into any other platforms outside of Robinhood for cryptocurrency trading?
Um, just because I haven't done a lot of cryptocurrency, I didn't look into getting Coinbase, and I'm still not like I think it has a lot of potential, but
Hmm.
I'm still not to the knowledge level where I feel comfortable putting a significant amount of money into it. So I haven't really done done that yet. I think I think it has it seems like there's going to be cryptocurrency. It's going to be more and more of a thing.
Yeah,
I think it's hard to tell, at least from my perspective, which one is going to win out because it
right.
seems like there's got to be one that like
Becomes the
uh
thing,
becomes the thing
the
that
standard.
like is used. It's possible that I don't know, kind of how it's working now is like Ethereum's being used for some stuff, Bitcoin's being used for some stuff, and then um, they have different reasons to use different ones. But it seems like as far as there's some issues with it, right? I
Yeah,
think I think some people like the environmental issue. There might be pushback with
right,
how they're being mined
right.
from like the government and stuff like that, and then the China like they put a ban or restrictions on it, which
Yeah,
crushed crypto the past month or so.
yeah, yeah,
But it's interesting to follow, and I do think it's probably a good investment. It's definitely high risk, very high risk. But I think one of them is probably gonna take off, and it's probably gonna be one that I'm not invested in. That's my prediction.
Fair. Yeah, I think we're all kind of sitting in that boat, but I think the having the exposure to it and being able to learn by doing is really valuable in that kind of conversation too.
Yeah.
Um, there are a lot of different platforms to get started and or, do you know, dabble in with cryptocurrencies. Robinhood obviously is a go-to for a lot of people. Coinbase is another super uber popular one. Obviously, they just went public recently. And
Hmm.
then what I've also started using is there's Gemini where you can also trade and whatnot. But I've been kind of really very into BlockFi specifically, if you're
Okay.
familiar with that.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Um, and I like that one more than anything else just because I can get interest back on the crypto I'm holding. It's not just
Mm,
like a stagnant just asset that I'm holding on to. It's more like now I'm actually making percentages on that back. And
interesting.
there are a
Cool.
lot of different crypto savings type experiences like that. Like Gemini does have their own version now.
Yeah.
Um, but BlockFi is just one of the ones I started earlier and heard about earlier, and it's been good. It's been good to
Yeah.
me so far. Um, but yeah, I would look into that personally. And
Cool.
one of my questions was, do you, out of your risky investments category from the monthly spending, do you still buy more crypto every month as well? Like, is it like a dollar cost average type of situation, or is this something like, oh, it's down, like I'll buy it, or whatnot?
Yeah, so I haven't really been investing more or less in crypto recently. I've kind of kept that initial investment. I think a couple months ago I put a decent amount more into Ethereum.
Hmm.
Uh, and I think I had more in Bitcoin originally, and then I put more into Ethereum, like January or so, February. Uh, so I haven't been doing dollar cost averaging with crypto investment. I just kind of have what I have in there right now.
Well, you
Then
bought it
occasionally
at
I
a
buy a little
great
bit more.
time, so
Yeah, yeah.
I guess there's no real need to at this point. Like obviously there are different conversations, but you know, buying it when you did was a smart. You should go back to your friend and
It
be
was
like,
lucky. It was lucky.
thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, but all we know tomorrow is the thing's gonna crash and like be
Oh, for
zero.
sure.
So I mean,
Yeah.
realistically, today it seems lucky, but tomorrow it could be like, yeah, that was a bad move.
Yeah, probably.
Um, but yeah, so cool. Is there something else as we're, after this, we'll go into some of your net assets and see how all this works out. But um, anything else? Any last comments on your monthly investing that you want to
Sure.
mention?
So I can break down the stocks a little bit
Yeah, please
more.
do.
So what I do for my investing overall is I have I have that risky investment category from the dollar spending. That's basically I don't have dollar cost averaging on it. I just if I see something that I find intriguing, a new technology that I like a lot, or something like I hear in the news and like look into it a little bit, and it seems like a solid investment. If I'm feeling like betting and putting a little money in Dogecoin or something like that, I'll just
Right,
do that. So
right.
that's my fun money. But what I do for the stocks, other than that, so every paycheck I get the 401k, I do Roth contributions to that. So that's 8% of my my paycheck every month, and then
Nice.
that gets matched 9%. So I think 75% of the 8%, and then they automatically do 3%, no matter what. So works out to
Wow.
9% overall. And then I do the HSA. That comes out of my paycheck as well. And then I do dollar cost averaging into stocks, and then I have the three money buckets in betterment. That is like the safety net, the major purchase, and then general investing for overall like robo advising on those three categories. For the dollar cost averaging on individual stocks, so I pick basically through 10 stocks about um, that I'm looking into, and that seem like decently solid long-term investments, at least in my eyes. And I do a certain amount each month just get automatically deposited at the same time I get my paycheck. So everything comes out of my bank the same day, and then I kind of have that type of stock allocation already picked for me. And then occasionally I look back at it, I change up the 10 stock investments, but generally the advice is you try to buy and hold for like five years or so, at
Right.
least. And that's kind of what I'm doing with the individual stocks.
With and is that on Robinhood?
That's on Robinhood currently. It's
Nice.
pretty easy to set up. Uh, Pretty easy to set up just automatic deposits there.
Cool.
I keep putting off trying to go to a different platform. I'm thinking I might try to move, but really it seems like the issue with Robinhood is if you're doing a lot of day trading and stuff like that, um, then there's restrictions on there, and it seems like there's a few other like safety issues that is might not be as secure as other places. So
Hmm.
eventually I'll probably try to probably in the next few months I'll try to move that over, get the same process going, but I just haven't put the time into
Do you, do
make that
you
change.
do you usually just put in like the same amount every time into these like
Yeah,
stocks?
yeah,
Because if you're more like along those lines, like let's just say every month you just do for arbitrary reason, just like $10 a month for whatever reason, it's just like an arbitrary number,
yeah.
and you usually put seven towards this, one towards that, one towards that, one towards that. So it's like 77%, yeah, 70%, then 10%, 10%, 10% for whatever reason. Just first
Yeah.
name that came, number that came to my mind was seven. So if you're more of like if that's like 100% of the pie that you're usually investing directly into every month and dollar cost averaging into, I think that the one that I would recommend would probably be M1 Finance. If you've ever
Okay.
heard of that,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a fantastic platform, and you can rebalance it whenever you want to rebalance it. But
Nice.
if you just want to dollar cost average into something, and you can set your own parameters around that, that might be
Yeah.
something to look into.
Cool.
Um,
Cool.
it's a really cool platform, and I use that pretty regularly as well. Because you
Nice.
can pick your stocks, you can pick mutual funds, you can pick ETFs, whatever you want, it's all there. You just allocate what percentage of the pie you want, and it's not, I think it's for free unless you want to take on like their premium services. But, so it's like a pretty cool situation.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into that as well.
And then if somebody else is on M1 and you kind of want to follow them, or if they have their pies public, you can actually invest into their pie too. And it's not
Oh,
like
that's
it's
cool.
into their pie, but like you'll just take the same allocation and like
Yeah.
have your
Yeah.
own percentage split. So
Interesting. That's a cool concept.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And they call it pies, which is why I'm using the word
Yeah.
pie. But yeah, it's very cool. And then yeah, I like. And then did you say that your employer matches 9% of your retirement?
Yeah. So they do 3% automatically. I think it's based off the years you've been employed. It's 3 to 5%. They invest automatically for you without you doing anything,
Wow.
and then they match 75% of the first 8% of that you contribute.
75% of the first 8%.
yeah, of your paycheck. So eight
Like so
percent,
6%, like kind
so
of.
6%. So 6 plus 3 is where 9 comes from.
Gotcha. 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 That's such a weird way of doing it. Just say like, yeah,
Yeah,
guys, we'll match 3% regardless, but we'll do like 6% on top of that, you know. So
yeah.
75% of the next.
I don't know.
That's an
Maybe they want
interesting
you to
way.
contribute a little bit more than 6%.
Yeah,
I
so they
don't
just
know.
phrase it as like 8% of
I don't know
75% of the
exactly how
increase.
they phrase it, but that's how the math works out.
Yeah. That's still a lot of money that they're matching, really
Yeah,
though.
it's, it's
Like
it's really solid.
that's
So
really
it's a
high
good plan.
for most from at least my understanding.
Yeah,
If I am remembering correctly. But very cool. And then, yeah, and so this is all of that. That includes all of the uh, stuff that was not included in the monthly per se. It includes the monthly
yeah,
plus your retirement
yeah,
focus stuff
yeah,
and automated stuff.
yeah.
Um, Very cool.
So that's just
That's
yeah,
everything.
that's everything. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. And then, any last words before we go into the net assets?
Um, I think we're good. If you want to go into like more of the risky things, I could talk about that, or we could wait for later.
I think I have that allocated in the net assets. We
Okay,
actually have it
cool.
as a line item. So
All
let's
right,
talk about
sounds good.
that. Let's talk about that. I'm pretty sure I do, right? Well, bam. And speculative stocks, we have 3%. So hopefully that would also out be a conversation with the uh, risky stuff. Do we want to start there? So here we have, maybe let's just walk us through this from retirement all the way
Sure.
down to crypto. Um,
Okay, so the retirement, I kind of already covered that. I think that's just the my investments plus the it's my invest my yeah, that's my investment plus the match basically. So that 9% plus the 8% I'm investing. Um, just target date fund there. So that's where most of my uh, assets lie currently. I guess just under 50%. Then general investing, that would be everything else included in as far as the non-speculative, like dollar cost averaging, stuff like that. Some of the robo advising, not including the bonds though. So this is general investing for
mhm,
stocks, I think. Um, and then yeah, that's how it's broken down here. So that's retirement stocks, then general investing, just stocks. So those are all kind of like more safer bets. How I plan to do that. Wanted to get that out of the way first. So that was my number one goal. And then the bonds is that that betterment distribution, robo advising, and a little bit of retirements. I think right now the target date fund it's really low on bonds right now. I'm not even positive there are any currently, but I
interesting.
would have to double check. So it's mainly just stocks, international and domestic, and then cash. Got a little bit of cash, and then crypto. Talked about that.
Yep.
And speculative stocks. Yeah, that's just the stuff that I had fun with over the year while I was bored in quarantine, like a lot of people have. So that's been the roller coaster ride.
Right, right,
So some very terrible investments and some really lucky investments. Maybe
right.
some good investments along the way, but probably just lucky. Uh,
So,
so yeah, so I think I started out the year kind of my goal was to learn a lot. I since I didn't know anything about investing, I kind of wanted um, to start out with a little bit of that, and just I got Robinhood and TD Ameritrade and started trading a few of the stuff like reading from, listening from podcasts, reading on like forums and stuff,
mhm,
and looking into a little bit more of a little bit more of the details there, and then occasionally just hearing from a friend that this is a good investment and
So
not looking into it at all and just putting my money into
do you have
it.
any specific stocks that stick out to you that you've been the most speculative on in a sense?
Yeah, so let's see. I bought AMC
Nice.
like after it went up a lot. So I think it's actually gone up again.
It has.
So
It
it's gone
has.
up quite a bit. And I bought GameStop when all that hype was going on for it, and it went up. Well, I didn't buy it at the top peak, but I bought it pretty high,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's down a bit. I think that's down like 30% or something like that.
Here, I'll look it
So
up.
that's like the most speculative um, as well. And then I did some day trading type stuff as well. So I did um, Dogecoin would probably be another speculative. I didn't put a lot of money into that though. And then I did buy some. I did mess around with a little bit of options trading as well, which is
This
probably
guy.
the, oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, this is over the last 6 months with AMC.
Look at that.
Yeah, I mean it
That's
was
pretty good.
like
So
two
I think
dollars.
I probably bought it right around that top right there. I
They're here.
remember
This $20 a share.
yeah, probably. So I was driving to California, driving back from California at the same time this was happening.
Wow.
And I was listening to like all the talk about GameStop that it was like all on the news like 24/7, and there's nothing else to do besides listen to it. And I was like, I need to put some money into this because this is going to make the drive way more fun. And it did, but it wasn't smart. But
Yeah.
I didn't lose too much,
I mean, again,
fortunately.
long-term holding is the the name of the game.
Yeah, yeah,
If it's only about the realized gains or losses that matter, right? So,
yeah,
um,
yeah. So for some reason I'm still holding on GameStop, but yeah.
yeah,
um,
it's really
I
only the
did
last
that.
day that just
Yeah,
crashed.
I did I did some um option. Oh, that's probably one of the dumbest things I've done is back in February last year, the stock market like started to go down a little bit, and I was
Mm,
like, well, there's all this hype around coronavirus. That's there's every 2 years there's like a new like swine flu type thing that never pans out, and now now like the travel stocks and stuff are going down a little bit. I'm like, I'll get some options here,
mm.
it's not going to be anything. and then March hit. And that was yeah, that was like right when I got into some started
Wh-
investing a little bit more.
So you started doing options in like January, February then?
I did a little some options in February, and I
On what
lost like all the
stocks?
um I forget which stocks. It was like I think it was like travel, like it might have been like Delta or something like that. Um and it wasn't like a long term uh options either. I think it was like expiration date of like November, December.
Actually, oh yeah,
Um
let me go back. Yeah, boom.
yeah, so I bought Delta stocks when it crashed, but okay, can you go look? Yeah. Yeah, there we go. There it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I basically lost all that money. Um, but I don't think it was a travel stock. I forget. It was a couple.
So,
Um,
so
so
there,
yeah.
there's gonna be some delay, I think, until if you're seeing it on your screen. But yeah,
Okay.
I have done some jets back when it crashed down here. I got some. And so I mean that's been good, but Jets is like a ETF of like a lot of different travel, specifically airline stocks.
Yeah,
It hasn't actually gone, yeah, I mean it's gone up I think as much as I think would have expected it to, but I was really actually thinking it would have gone up more, like
yeah,
back up to like 30 something at this point, but I guess
yeah,
it's full recovery there.
yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So definitely options. It's very risky. It's more or less like gambling. Unless you know really what you're doing, um,
right.
you're probably gonna lose your money if you do
It
that.
You have to like know a lot of the terms and verbiage, and you need to understand exactly what like calls and puts are, and understand like what you're if you're in the money, out of the money, and then uh oh, there's so much to to keep in mind there,
Yeah,
and
for
if you even
sure.
want to hold it until until it has to execute, right? Because they're timed, right? So it's like, okay, so I bought this option for I don't know how many weeks or months or potentially shorter or longer terms than that. Um,
Yeah.
and it's just like, well, you don't actually have to hold it. You just hold or buying the contract for that
Yeah,
stock or that purchase or
exactly.
sell, which is crazy to
So
think about.
yeah, that was one of my worst probably. I made it up a little bit. I think January. I I've only bought options a few times, but I've looked into it a lot because I found it interesting,
Yeah,
and you saw all the hype around options and stuff like that. It's really expensive to buy a decent option too, like
yeah.
because it's 100 times the stock price. So if if it's a decent like in the money call, then it's gonna be pretty expensive if it's not like a really cheap stock. And if it's a really cheap stock, then it's not really worth it to get a call option.
Hmm.
I don't know. So there's definitely some interesting ways you can reduce risk by using some options trading, and there's a few cool strategies that you can use. But I haven't gotten that sophisticated with it.
Like by buying the actual stocks and then like also buying the contracts for like a call or a put, and then so at
Y-
least you're like, guaranteed something either way,
Yeah,
like hedging your bet.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's like you got the band where you'll you won't be able to um you won't be able to make a ton of money off the investments, but it can be used seemingly fairly intelligently if you want to get really sophisticated with it.
Right.
And I've I've looked into that a little bit. I haven't been confident enough to actually go through with any of those strategies yet, but
Right.
maybe at some point.
It's
Um,
yeah. I'm in the same boat,
yeah.
honestly. Option
One
trading.
of I guess the other bigger bet I placed was right before the Georgia elections. Um,
Ooh.
I bought a few call options on some weed stocks because like every indication was pointing towards uh the Democrats winning that race. Like um I was kind of tracking because I found the politics of it like kind of interesting. I was tracking the polling, and the polling went from one went from like Republicans were up by one to Democrats were slowly gaining. And then there were like two or three news stories that came out really bad for Republicans like the day before.
Mm,
And there was definitely not indicated in the polling yet. So it seemed to me at least like it was a fairly high probability that they would actually win those. Um, and they ended up winning them. And then
those
the
must have been
the
awesome.
yeah, so I think I basically evened out from the earlier ones that I
Do you
lost money in.
any specific stock picks that you remember from that experience?
I forget the
The
I think
tickers.
Tilray or something like that.
I'll try it. How do you? What's the?
TLRY, I think.
It looks like it's like a Tory Burch thing. I'll put that back up. Tory.
TLRY.
TL. Tillery. Tilray. Yeah, pharmaceutical company.
They actually went through a merger with
Ooh,
somebody
shit.
else.
Wow. Like dollars to like 63 February.
Yeah. So
Wow. Look at
I was able
this.
to get a
20.
decent, but there was definitely still a chance that they wouldn't have won both elections. So that was a high risk play for sure.
Interesting. Interesting. I know there's these ACB I know is Aurora. Seems like they're hopefully doing all right. No.
Yeah. Yeah, they've kind of gone along with the tech bubble, I guess, a little bit. Like those stocks,
Yeah.
they were they went up a lot February, I think maybe into March a little bit, and then in the past couple of months they've gone down quite a bit.
Wow. Yeah, these are
Yeah,
intense.
I had Aurora too for a second.
Seems like this is at least Canopy's doing all right.
Yeah, so that was just like a I don't know. Yeah, that's just like what seemed like was gonna happen. And then I bought a little bit of bought a little bit of Jacobs Engineering, I think as well, in case because I figured at some point there's going to be an infrastructure plan that goes through.
That's a good one. I mean, I think there are memes about Biden talking about infrastructure. This is a great
Yeah,
stock. Whoa, geez, look at you.
yeah.
How do you find out about this company?
So I did some research on like the impacts on the election, I guess, election would have. And it seemed like they would be one of the beneficiaries if there is a Biden presidency and
Well, you seem to be right
a
on
Senate.
that.
Um,
Almost doubled last year.
yeah. So I don't have a ton in that, but that was another one. One of the other uh speculative things I did. So of course, like these are the counterbalance to the GMEs of the world and the travel stocks I originally bought.
Yeah, this is
um,
great.
but but one of the other things that I was looking into when the whole GME thing, so I got like really into investing for a little while there,
Nice.
and and when the GME thing went, I was following like the Reddit forums and stuff like that as well, because they actually have a decent amount of interesting information on them. There's a lot of ridiculousness, but
Right, right.
so right after, like for the week after, um, week or so after GME went skyrocketed, then there's all this news on like mainstream media about these forums and stuff like that,
Like
about these
Reddit
Reddit
and stuff.
forums.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Wall Street Bets was a big one, but another one, like it was gaining a lot of traction, and like there were tons of new people on all these forums, and there was a ton of new investors that just started following them. So what would happen, I started noticing, you would get these posts that blew up during the day. There'd be a stock, they had like all the catchphrases, like there's due diligence on this, and they do a long essay about why it's why it's really working. And then it becomes like a top post on all of Reddit, and the stock like clockwork jumped 10%
Wow.
every time. So if a stock made it to the uh top of Reddit for like a week after, it would 100% go at least 10%, maybe 15%. If it's like a penny stock, maybe more.
Wow.
But but it takes a while for the post to make it to the top, right? So what I did was I followed the post. I got up at like when the market opened, like 6:30 here, and I would scroll through and sort by, instead of like the best posts, I would sort by the posts that were like rising or the new posts. And then when I saw one that was rising a lot, posted like 15 minutes ago, it has a ton of upvotes, then that was likely to go up a lot. So
That's
I threw in, I would look at those stocks, I would throw in a ton, I would, or not a ton, I would throw in a decent amount of money into them, and then it would shoot up 10%, and then I would get out the next day. But that worked for like 4 days in a row, and I was like, I'm the smartest person ever, you know.
I made it.
but but obviously people caught on to it.
Right.
Um, and then a lot of algorithms, it seemingly started doing the same thing. And then like I think it was like the fifth day that it did that. I was like, okay, this has been a guaranteed 4 days in a row. There's no way. So I put like even more into one of them, and then it didn't go up. It went down. So it went, I think it went up. Well, the thing is, I wasn't, even though I caught it within the first like 20, 30 minutes, it already went up a whole lot.
Oh
So it
wow.
was up like 10% already. And then it um, corrected like the next day or something like that. And I didn't have enough money in uh, my Robinhood account to make it so I could day trade.
Yeah,
So
you need a certain dollar
you
amount
you
for that.
needed to be, $25,000 to be able to day trade. So if
It's
I got
casual.
into the stock, then I would have to
Wait
wait
a
a
day.
day to get out, which is one of the things that's nice about crypto, is you can just get in and get out.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I made a lot of money there, and then I lost it, most of those gains, I think.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is too good to be true. But it was definitely like something that was clearly happening, and
Yeah.
a clear pattern that. But as soon as there becomes a clear pattern, people catch on to it pretty quickly.
Yep.
And now
100%.
it's tough to follow a lot of these forums, because even though they give good like insight, the reaction is so high after that insight that even if it's like really great analysis, the stock is probably went up like 10% that day because of this person's analysis.
Mm,
So
right.
I haven't been following them as much lately, because it just seems like too many people are in that space, and um I don't know. There's not a lot of there's a lot of market manipulation in there as well.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how influential those platforms and those forums can be, right?
Yeah.
Uh, let alone single celebrities just tweeting out what they, you know,
Oh
just for
yeah, yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
It can do a lot of damage. But yeah, it's cool that you caught on and were a part of the hype for a little bit, and it seems like at least you came out neutral, all things
Yeah.
considered,
Yeah.
somewhat
It was
unscathed.
fun. I
But
was able to learn a lot through like doing it. So that was cool.
yeah, and were there any key takeaways though at the end of the day from that you're going to be moving forward with?
It just takes a lot of time.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
takes a lot of time and effort to make like really good financial choices like that, or to catch on to something like that. And if you, I don't know, it's kind of not, worth the time at some point.
Hmm.
So it's definitely interesting, and I might get back into it a little bit when I have more free time or something like that. But I think if you're going to make risky investments, it seems like you really need to put a decent amount of time into looking into those investments. And then the times that I've like not put as much time into it and been like just from a friend or just from like something, a news
Right.
article or something I see, then that's where a lot of times you get burned, I
Yeah.
think.
What are there certain platforms, or when I say platforms, are there certain news hubs or places that you typically would look to first, maybe outside of like the Reddit forums, that you would do your own due diligence on?
Yeah, so I listen to a lot of like financial podcasts as well, which I get kind of daily news from. Like Planet Money has a lot. There's a lot of good ones. The Market Watch has a good one. Robinhood Snacks is kind of a funny podcast. That's a little goofy, but it actually has like it does three interesting stories each time. They're pretty funny. I look at like some news articles from like Yahoo Finance. I peruse occasionally, and Motley Fool is
Motley Fool's good.
actually a fairly good good resource. So they they have like their free post and stuff like that, which is a little clickbaity,
Yeah, for sure.
um, little clickbaity and not like that great. But their paid subscription, which actually comes with the American Express as a benefit of the American Express credit card that I have.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
their paid subscription actually has some pretty good stock picks and stock analysis. Um, and they've fairly consistently outperformed like the S&P. I've
Yep.
looked into that. I mean, they advertise that they do, but like there's been some third party. I mean, it's not hard to look at the stock picks and see how it's performed, but it seems like fairly consistently they've been quite a bit above average. So I kind of list stocks on my radar, and then they also suggest that I kind of get that added boost of like this seems like it's probably a decent long-term investment. And I do think there's a little bit of a same stuff with any of these news articles where you get that initial boost where the stock goes higher than it should be if they just like did some recent analysis, recent new price target or something like that. But if you're doing long term 5 year investment, then 10% boost or maybe 5% over what it should be valued isn't like a huge thing.
Right.
It's better to be in a really good company that's maybe a little bit overvalued than a bad company that's undervalued, I think.
Yeah, well put. Well put. Um, and then the other article, another hub that I would also look to, you mentioned a lot. Like again, I look at Motley Fool quite a bit. What about like Seeking Alpha? Have you come across
Oh
those?
yeah, that's really good. They have really good stuff. I
Yeah.
think I've subscribed to their newsletter actually, and they send out too many emails for me to keep track of. So, but they do have some good stuff.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I think let's what we'll do here is we'll go back to uh your net assets conversation and make sure that see if there's anything else you want to add to that, and then we'll have some other final questions here.
Sounds
It's
good.
been a great conversation so far. Appreciate you
Thanks, man.
hanging out. Yeah,
Anytime.
John just commented, he said informative show, man. So
Oh,
I think
great.
that's all
Thanks.
kudos to you. Thanks for coming on,
Thanks for having me,
informing
man.
and educating. Love that, John. Thanks for sticking around and watching. Um, and so if you and John, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. This is that's why we're live on Facebook. So feel free to, and if that goes for anybody watching at this show and others, feel free to comment and ask some questions live if you guys are interested in the subject. So, um, yeah, so with this, was there anything else? I think we really went into a lot of your target date retirement stuff. You're pretty hard on those retirement date funds, and I think it's just more the theory behind it. And I just see it's pretty hands off. Is that why? Like, why do you like them so much? And uh, have you considered changing that up at all?
I like them because they're hands off. I think that's the main reason, and it's I think it's I've had it suggested to me in a few different places as a solid solid place to look at. I think for my mentality for trying to not touch the retirement account,
Hmm.
it's pretty easy to just pick that and go with it. It has been a little bit since I've looked at it, since it's been a touch and not not look back at it after.
Right. Right.
So um, I think I would be open to other ways of looking at it, but I think just about anything you would have to be a little bit more hands-on than if you're
Yeah.
doing a target date fund.
Right. Yeah. It's basically it's just you have just different funds, right? And
Yeah,
you just select between, right?
yeah,
Um, yeah. No, I think we're by default put into the retirement date fund for most employer sponsored retirement accounts.
yeah.
Um, very cool. And yeah, is there anything else that's top of your mind that you want to mention here?
Um, I don't know.
We
I
covered a
think we
lot.
covered it. We covered it pretty well. I think a lot of people have different mentality for investments, and I think some people steering away, being even more hands off, would probably be good for them, and
Hmm.
might be better than what I'm doing probably than some of those risky investments. Um, I think I think for me, I do like kind of going into depth a little bit with the things and getting a little more hands-on approach. So I like it. I like having a little bit of skin in the game to follow it. But I do think like if you're not wanting to be hands-on, like putting it in a robo advisor and putting your money into a target date fund, you're gonna be in a really good position. And if you have like a solid budget, I think another word of warning with like speculative type stocks is that it I know it gets like compared to gambling
Yeah.
fairly often, and I think it's a little bit different because I mean if you go to the casino, your odds are that you're going to lose, and if you invested in a stock, uh, on average, stocks generally trend upward. The good thing to take into account, though, which is a good comparison with gambling, is that it does get there is people that get taken over with it, and and that's easy to happen. And if you keep doing higher and higher, then you're likely it becomes that you're likely going to lose out on it, because if you put in $1,000 and you get 100% return, then you put in $2,000 next time, maybe you get 100% return again, but then $4,000, and then if you lose all of that, then
Then
that's where you're shot. So that's that's kind of uh, where it is a lot like gambling. If you do something like options and stuff like that, that you have a potential to lose all your money.
yeah, I had a roommate who actually was in a pretty similar boat. Like not like unhealthy, but he definitely slowly started putting more and more and more and more in, and then he just
Mm-hmm.
got a little bit overconfident at some point, and he lost it all. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but we do have a question from John here. He says, "What do you think about investing in gold or like about like precious metals, etc., or oil, long or short term, good or bad?" Um, do you have any immediate thoughts on this?
Any immediate thoughts? So I think there is I'm definitely not an expert, first of all, so I wouldn't go to me for advice, but just to answer the question, I don't have any money in gold. I have some money in oil. I invested in oil when it was down a lot last year. Um, I think long term, it seems like we're moving away from oil more and more. So my instinct would be that short term, it might not be a bad investment. It could be good or bad, but it seems like long term, it might be going away from it. But I'm not sure about that. And it seems like gold, it seems like there is probably going to be inflation in the next couple of years. It seems like we're already seeing that. Uh, I think there's a few different hedges against inflations that you can put. I think crypto would be one that you could use. I think there's a few other things, investing in like property or stuff like that. It's a really good opportunity. I'm not sure about gold as a whole. I feel like if inflation does go up, gold will probably go up a little bit. I think I'm hesitant with that type of stuff because unlike crypto, I don't see us moving to like back to a gold standard or using it as like a source for trading again. Um, so I guess those would be my hesitancies, but I'm not opposed to investing in it. I think I did invest in it some in gold last year for a little bit too.
Hmm.
Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think I pretty much agree with a lot. And of course, John, yeah, I mean, this is completely opinion based. So, um, you know, this is our thoughts here. So, with gold in particular and precious metals, I actually have another friend who is very bullish on them. He actually loves them. He buys bricks and stuff like he gets them or like coins and stuff ordered to his place all the
Okay,
time.
cool. Yeah,
Um, and he believes in them very strongly. So
gotcha.
long term and short term, he is just like the precious metals go to for me. Hope
Interesting.
to have him on the show soon as well. Um, and but realistically, I look at gold and precious metals like silver and whatnot as hedges against inflation.
Yeah,
It's never a bad thing to be diversified, just in case.
for sure.
I wouldn't necessarily say go all in into. I'm not a risky person personally. Like I'm not going to go all into any one thing, but I will, especially when I'm hanging around the guy who knows what he's doing, like I'll probably dabble a little bit once I understand exactly what it's done, like what it does, just exactly like what you were saying earlier, Drew, like just having skin in the game just to learn a little bit about it. But
Yeah.
in my mind, the coolest part about gold and silver isn't necessarily that you have gold and silver. It's like they have some really cool custom gold and silver bars and coins, and
Cool.
like they could be
Yeah.
like themed on like Star Wars, and you know you can obviously get there. Obviously, the crowd is into this is very political, but so you can get like stuff with like presidents' faces on them and whatnot. But
Yeah. Yeah.
but if you're able to get like a really cool like golden brick or coin with something that you actually like love and I like find enjoyment from, you can be like, yeah, I like this so much that I have a coin with that thing on it.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of fun. And I think if
That is
you
pretty cool.
treat it like that, yeah, it just becomes yeah, exactly. Like typically, so John just come in whatever shape you want. It was just like typically they come in like coins and bars, but I'm sure that you can probably melt it down and then reshape it too. Like that's also a potential. Um, I'm not sure
Yeah.
what it does to the actual gold itself or whatever metal, but so anyway, that's like my thought on metals is like it's not a bad option for sure. I again because my friend believes it so much, like I kind of believe it because he's like very strong on it too, but I
Yeah.
think it is of it as like a different asset class, right? Like in theory, like if the stock market just crashes and doesn't recover, then we're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
But if we have some gold, then it's really like, well, I do have some gold now. And
Yeah.
you have that in your back pocket. So I mean, diversification is never a bad thing. As far as
For sure.
and oil in general, to your point, I'm staying out of. I think I just don't know enough. and I'm not one to buy into stuff I don't know enough about personally, but
Yeah.
oil specifically, John, to your question, like short term, sure, maybe, especially because prices are so high. Then the next earnings report, I'm sure for a lot of these oil companies are going to be great.
Hmm.
But I also think long term, like we're probably going to be electric or alternative energy dependent outside of, and I mean, cars and gas powered vehicles are going to be here to stay for like probably another couple decades, but long term, that's probably where that like that's I think why people are so hype about people like Tesla as an
Yeah.
example, right? Because of that potential future. Tesla is more most of Tesla's business and business potential comes from the battery side of it than the car side of it, you know.
Hmm.
Um, those are that's where Tesla's gonna like making not maybe most of its money now, but where it can potentially grow that much further in the future is their battery technologies more than their cars and their auto manufacturing side of the business.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
No,
know,
that's true. And I guess another thing, if you're going to invest in oil, I guess if it's an oil like company or something like that, or gas company, like I think there's a chance that like Shell and some of the other bigger corporations that uh maybe not directly in oil, but when you think of like investing in like companies that are producing gas and oil and stuff like that, I think a lot of them have a lot of assets on hand. And as energy starts transitioning to more renewable, more electric stuff, I think it seems like they are working on incorporating that to become more of like a overall energy based business instead of
that's a
uh, a one-stop shop. So
that's a good
there
point.
could be still value in some of these energy companies that are currently mostly in oil.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that's a great point, right? Like some of these big oil, I'm sure you know, they're probably going to be scrambling. Like they're already feeling the pressure, I'm sure, from Tesla being in the
Mm.
news so much to start looking at how they can diversify as well, which is interesting. Grease and lubes, yeah. So,
Yeah,
um, but yeah, man,
cool.
I think those are great questions, John.
Thanks.
Um, and you got feel free if you have any other questions, John, while you're here, just feel free, comment away. Hopefully that was helpful. Um,
Yeah.
and
I
so,
don't. I guess I haven't been following gold very much either.
yeah,
So I don't know where its price is compared to where it was previously. So I'm definitely not anti-investing in it, and I definitely have some friends who think it's pretty solid
yeah.
choice as well.
Yeah, if my friend wasn't talking about it every time I talk with him, then I probably might not know or care enough about it either. But
Yeah,
I'm definitely taking an interest, and I've definitely like scavenged the website, like online places for like some interesting looking gold and silver stuff, because like they look
yeah,
cool, man. Um, and you like have the thing, right? Cryptocurrency the issue is just like, well, it's somewhere in the internet, but gold is just like
yeah,
you can't take this thing away from me unless you like literally physically take it from me, you
yeah,
know? Yeah, exactly. It's like a limited resource. Gold is a
hmm,
limited resource.
yeah,
Um, whereas like crypto, you can literally, again, we already know a lot of those small, talk about penny stocks is like gambling and whatnot, right? You have like all the other tokens and coins where they're like, how many zeros in front of the like on like behind the decimal point are they? Like so fractional that it's just
yeah,
like you have like 0.0 like 10 to the whatever negative 3 whatever power like whatever like exponent stuff you're like we're gonna have to be a society that adopts that then, right?
yeah,
Like that's how many Dogecoin I have is like,
yeah,
it's like, oh,
yeah,
you want to trade with me? Well, I have this to the negative whatever power or whatever, worth of this
hmm,
coin. It's going to be a weird new way of talking. Because again, like one Bitcoin, like you're not going to have people be like, yeah, here's like one Bitcoin for like seven Bitcoin, like, or like, hey, yeah, you're like, it's just not going to be that way. It's going to be like, yeah, like I have like 1/1040th of a Bitcoin, you know, here's
yeah,
can I
yeah,
get that pair of shoes there, please? Like
yeah,
it just doesn't unless there's numerical split of the value of Bitcoin effectively, which is going to be that's an interesting conversation. I don't know. I just came up with
Yeah.
that, but that'll be fascinating. You know, then yeah, that's I think what would make that a little bit more achievable. But yeah, as far as limited resources, yeah, exactly. There's only so much gold and silver. Um, but yeah, so we have some final questions here for you. And again, if anybody is watching, like John, if anybody else, if you guys do have questions, feel free to put them in as well. Um, but we spoke about a lot already. The thing that Do you have any specific thoughts or perspectives on the current market as it is today, and what your specific plans are of going about that, like investing in like the next?
So it's definitely been a crazy year. You know,
Hmm.
a lot of ups and downs. I kind of am happier with the market in some senses right now because it's a lot of these tech stocks and stuff like that, which I did have a decent amount of investments in, have gone down quite a bit. But I also feel a lot more comfortable with uh, where their prices are now compared to a couple months ago. So I, as far as tech, I feel like that's where I'm more comfortable investing in. And now it seems like a little bit more reasonable. I mean, compare it to last year, they're still insanely, they've gone up in quite a bit.
Right,
But I guess I'm looking forward to hopefully a little bit more stable, uh, stable stock market. And hopefully there isn't another coronavirus or something like that.
right, right. Some random other thing that comes through, some like
Yeah.
other strains, right?
Yeah.
That come through. Yeah,
Yeah.
that these viruses aren't going to be, or the vaccines aren't going to be effective against, or we're gonna have to like get like some booster shots, right? Like how many months if
Hmm.
it doesn't kind of get away or whatever happens. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very cool. And then we spoke about this a lot already about different things, but any specific current influences, like some of your biggest influences today that you have on stocks? I mean, we already spoke about a lot of news articles and whatnot, but do you follow anybody in particular?
Um, follow it. I guess I don't have like one person I really go to. I have like 5 or 6 podcasts that I listen to fairly frequently.
Right.
Um, and I think I mentioned some of them.
Hmm.
But uh, yeah, as far as one influence, I guess I probably wouldn't have one in particular. I liked do like a lot of the stuff that like Dave Ramsey says about
Yeah.
it, but I've definitely differ in some aspects as far as like um some debt stuff and some investing stuff that he has.
Right.
Um yeah, I think I try to follow the news, like podcast news, just to keep up to date with kind of what's going on. Seems
Yep.
like if anybody gets too popular, it's kind of tricky to actually take them,
Seriously.
even if
Yeah.
they're being genuine. It's kind of hard to follow them because they get so much influence on each stock price if they mention it.
Right. Yeah, it's true. I mean, I'm sure the SEC probably cracks down that if they have over so many followers or so much, influence.
Yeah.
Yeah, very fascinating. And then I have let's just go to some of the last fun questions that we have here. Are there any quirky, unique games or activities slash tricks uh, that you do with money? As an example, you mentioned some stuff like like you didn't eat out when you were in college like at all, but like is there stuff that you do like rounding up or down on purchases, savings or transfers, or you did use acorns for a while, but is there anything else like kind of different that you think you do? It's okay if you say no, but you know,
Yeah. So I think I did the acorns thing for a little bit. I think I like I like taking out as much as I can directly from each paycheck. And then instead of kind of budgeting month to month, I kind of budget based off of my checking account, trying to keep it above a certain level. And then if I'm able to cut down on that, then the next month I'll raise my investments a little bit. Or if I can't cut down and I'm lower in cash than I would like to be, then I cut back a little bit on my investments. So instead of being a structured budget guy, which would probably help, I just seems like it takes quite a bit of time. I try to kind of budget with my investments and taking it directly out. So
Right.
moving everything as soon as I get it, so I don't have that
Right.
temptation. And then I try to like push myself to like, oh, still have a little bit of that stress that I did when I was in college. So I have to be like, oh no, I don't have too much in here, or I need to be like mentally setting that limit in my checking account to be like, it's bad if I go below here,
Right.
you know.
Right. So you basically,
Um,
yeah, so you have a checking account number in mind that you're trying to stay above, but
yeah,
also need to stay close to. So if you have more, then you'll put it into different investments. But if you're getting under that or close to it, you're like, oh, you tightened up a little bit more.
exactly, yeah.
That's cool. Very cool. You mentioned that your car is a guilty pleasure of yours. Do you have any other guilty pleasures as far as like other expenses or things that you buy or enjoy,
Um,
spend money on?
I think that'd probably be the main one. I think maybe too much eating out a little bit.
Yeah,
um, I feel like I almost felt like the risky investments was a bit of a guilty pleasure
yeah,
of mine. So in that sense, I felt like it was a good guilty pleasure because like at least I'm getting some return on it. Sometimes if I don't, then I'm still investing that money. I don't know.
yep,
You got, I kind of got a little bit of enjoyment out of out of messing around with that.
yep, yep. Uh, Makes sense. Yeah, and you just get like a rush every time you click the buy button,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Um, and then situation is you're driving across the country. What music are you listening to?
Oh man. So I listen to podcasts more than I listen to music actually. So if I'm driving across the country, I'm gonna put a podcast on. Um, but if I'm sticking to music, I'll probably put on some country music or some alternative.
Nice. Any
Maybe,
specific people or bands?
um, Zach Brown band, the basic country
Yeah,
music
fair.
places. I'm definitely. It's pretty rare how often I listen to music, to be
Really.
honest.
So
So
that's fair.
yeah,
Then with the
yeah.
podcast, then like what are like your top like it doesn't have to be strictly financial either. Top podcasts.
The Tim Ferriss show. Have you read the 4 Hour Work Week?
I started it and I knew exactly where it was going. Like I just
Yeah,
you read the title, you know exactly like what it's
yeah.
getting at.
I
You
didn't read all of it, but he interviews a lot of interesting people. Um, it, I really liked his interview. Have you seen the book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich? Shoot, I forget
no.
the author's name.
Here I got.
He
I'll look it up because I can do that.
he
Ramit
has
Sethi.
yeah, that guy. Him and that guy, he interviewed him a couple years ago, and I thought he gave some like really uh really solid like financial advice in general and budgeting. Um, uh, and he doesn't do just investing. It's a lot of different things. Probably less investing, more like health and stuff like that. They were joking that both of them are kind of like scammy book titles, and they kind of are. um, but
Yeah.
that pot like he goes into the cutting, like his philosophy is cut like crazy on stuff you don't have joy in, but then like put in money to stuff that you really enjoy. So I think he gives they give the example of like if you have a money dial on each area, like is clothing something that you care about a lot? No, put that down to two. Is eating out something that you care about? No, put that down to two. Is travel something that you love? All right, turn that dial up to 10. You're going to get a lot of enjoyment out of this this money. Put more budget into
Hmm.
that, and then cut a lot on the stuff don't get uh, enjoyment out of. And I, I found that
Yeah, it seems pretty
informative.
fascinating. Seems pretty
I
fascinating.
haven't read this book either, for the record, but I listened to their podcast and it was pretty
Yeah, I noticed he leans into his culture of being Indian. Uh, he's like, negotiate fees like an Indian. And he's like, why Indian people love negotiating.
good. Yeah, yeah,
So, um, but I mean, it's definitely. I know Ramit Sethi also does like a lot. He does a lot of stuff. Like
yeah,
money wise that people follow. Very good, very cool, very
yeah.
interesting. Um, And then we did get a comment from John about his music preferences, rock and roll. I'm with you there, buddy.
Nice.
Um, and let's go and see some of the other questions I have is do you have a favorite book or movie?
Favorite book or movie? Um, let's see. I think my favorite book is The Mind Gym.
The Mind Gym.
Yeah, it's a sports psychology book. Probably read it a few times. I haven't read it in a little bit, but it's not financial related at all. But
Yeah,
um,
An Athlete's Guide to Inner Excellence by
yeah,
Gary Mack.
mhm, yeah, that's that's probably my favorite book. Movie. Oh man, I don't know. I don't know my favorite movie. I feel like this is a common question that I just don't have a good answer for. Um,
It's all good if
maybe,
not.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. Maybe The Miracle. That that
The ice skating movie.
yeah, yeah.
That's just Miracle
Miracle. Yeah,
um,
I watched
movie.
that a whole bunch of times growing up.
Dude, like such a good movie though.
Yeah,
Such a good movie. Yeah, I did enjoy this movie. It's such a just you love like I just love this movie.
yeah.
I'm gonna go cast. Who
Oh,
is
it's on Netflix now.
yeah, Kurt Russell. Yeah, man, the man. I loved how he
Yeah.
played that. But yeah, great movie. Great movie. Yeah, John, have you ever read or seen the movie Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Drew?
No, I haven't.
The
I should.
answer to all things, the world and everything, whatever, is like 42 quote. Um, that's one of my favorite quotes. The answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything is 42.
It's 42.
Just, yeah, I just thought that was so funny. The ultimate answer to life, the universe, and everything. Calculated by an enormous supercomputer named Deep Thought over a period of 7.5 million years. It took a computer 7.5 million years, and it's just like, all right, I have the answer. And then you have like a whole
Yeah.
bunch of people waiting for the answers, like 42.
uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
I've
crazy.
heard that the book is so much better than the movie, but the movie is already so good. It's like the
Yeah,
second time in a week this has come up with me, so I need to go
yeah,
read the book now. That's a good book. That's a great, John, I appreciate that recommendation too. All right, these are good. Glad we have this talk. Good talk,
yeah.
guys. Um, and yeah, I think, you know. it that those are all the main questions. We've been talking now for a very long time. I think it's the longest show we've had so far.
Oh
So,
my, I'm sorry.
no, I think it's been fantastic. Thank you for joining and being an awesome guest. Appreciate
Thanks. I
you.
love you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I know we've been talking for a long time, but is there anything else that you want to add, say, or mention?
I don't. I think I'm pretty good.
Pretty
Thanks for
good,
having
man.
me on. It's nice to see you. Hopefully, I'm good to see you soon. Come
Yeah.
come down south sometime. Maybe I'll come up north sometime.
I'll be hitting you up soon.
Good talking
Yeah,
with you.
John's saying later. We will cut off the episode now. It's a pretty solid end with the answer to uh, life, the universe, and everything for everybody.
42.
42
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
So
Invest
um,
42.
yeah,
Invest in 42. Invest $42. Yeah.
exactly. John's asking if I'm streaming any video games later. Probably late or Wednesday is probably gonna be. You play any games later? 42, John. Yeah, 42 is the answer. But I appreciate you. And yeah, for everybody else out there, thank you guys for joining. I really enjoy uh, been doing this. Again, this is our fourth episode now. We hope to bring you guys some more content as well. We're on all the social media platforms, obviously streaming live on Facebook, then edited and reposted to YouTube, and hopefully going on some podcast platforms shortly as well. But thank you again, Drew, for your time. Uh, Everybody, keep doing big things, and we'll sign off for this episode. Thank you guys so much for joining.
Thank you.